Hey guys, just letting you know that this is my first try and test of the new that I've got my new camera set up. Hopefully you can see everything clearly. And without further ado, let's get to where I was meant to be. I'm going to be painting in krita tonight, and because I'm chilling out a little bit more, because as my voice, I was streaming earlier on and I killed my voice a little bit. So I thought we would listen to one of my favourite comic books. Uh, read to us, and hopefully you will enjoy this tonight, as it's a little bit different. And if anybody want to leave a comment at any point during the stream, feel free to do so, and hopefully you will enjoy. Without further ado, let's start the book, and let's start painting my creation, which I inked today.
Many things are familiar here, while many things are familiar here, while many things are also very contrasting. While there are many things that people liked about this world, in the end, it was destroyed in the Secret Wars, and some of the best parts were then merged with the original Marvel Universe. But that is at the end of the story, and I'm jumping ahead of myself, because I'm here to tell you the magnificent tale of Spider-Man. We need to go back to the beginning, in a lab. You see, in this universe, the tale is a bit different at the start. Osborn Industries, the company that belonged to Norman Osborn, was conducting experiments, which led to experimenting on a spider, which was accidentally let free from its container. And this brings us to our young 15-year-old Peter Parker, a bookworm with his mind on other things, like his studies and girls, such as Mary Jane. But while his life as a punching bag always took a toll on him, someone who gave him hope and helped him through it, his Uncle Ben. You see, his parents both died when he was young, and they left him in the care of his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And Ben, well, he looked after the boy like any father would. Peter was also close friends with the wealthiest kid at school, Harry Osborn, son of Norman Osborn. So, that night after dinner, Harry came by the Parker pad, as he called it, to learn about biology. And that's when Peter explained that his parents were supposedly killed in a plane crash, and that on the board in front of both of the boys was a formula that his father came up with before he died. The next day, the whole school went on a field trip to Osborn Industries, where the fateful act happened. The weird spider from the start of our tale crawled out and bit Peter Parker on the hand, and with that, he hit the ground, right away starting to feel weird. Now, this part of the story remains much of the same. A young boy begins to slowly discover that he has powers, everything from strength, speed, and agility. And while this is going on, Norman Osborn has Peter follow. He knew of the spider that bit Peter, and he wanted to know what was happening. Was the boy going to live, or was he going to die? As things progressed, both Peter and Osborn began to see the growth of his abilities. But the problem is that with the growth, also grew his ego, and eventually he grew cocky. You see, as one of the kids picked on him, he retaliated. He actually injured one of those kids. The parents demanded that Uncle Ben and Aunt May pay the $2,500 hospital bill for their child, which drove Peter further into his own head. He had these abilities now. Why shouldn't he use them? And why can't he make money from them? He decided to enroll in wrestling matches to win a little money. But of course, he had to wear a mask, as they wouldn't let a 15-year-old kid. The story of Peter Parker kept progressing as he excelled at sports and continued to win these matches until eventually he made an actual Spider-Man suit. But back at Osborn Industries, Norman decided that if this kid can gain powers from his formula, why couldn't he? So he has an individual known as Dr. Octavius run various tests on Peter's blood, and they figured out the perfect formula that made Peter into a superpowered individual. Except when they tried to test it on Norman Osborn, Dr. Octavius changed something in the formula. Something that he wanted to do, something that he wanted to alter, and it went wrong. And the entire lab was destroyed, and Norman Osborn went missing. Back with Peter, he continued to win at each and every match as Spider-Man. And as it was all working out, Peter was walking home one night when a thug ran up on him after robbing a deli. That was it. The moment that Peter could alter his entire history. This universe could go a completely different path. So what did the Peter Parker of the Ultimate Universe do? He let the robber go. It's not his problem, he told the deli owner. After that, Uncle Ben and Aunt May confronted him at the desk about his grades and asked why he was slipping. An argument ensued, and Peter ran off into the night. He ended up at a party with girls coming on to him. Mary Jane upset that she saw him. She did have feelings for Peter, though she didn't really know how to tell him, and seeing him with that other girl, well, she left the party. Peter chased after her, but as he got to the door, Uncle Ben was standing there. Because his 15-year-old nephew was now at a party, he was there to bring him home. He took him outside to ask him why he was doing this. He's such a smart kid. Why waste away his potential on things like these parties? He told Peter various things about his father, things such as responsibility and what this means. He told Peter that his father believed that he was destined for great things. And with all of the great things that he was destined for, great responsibility would come. But that angered Peter more, as he wanted to know, if his father knew so much, why did he leave? And he ran off into the night, a confused kid. By the time he got home, it was too late. You see, Uncle Ben and Aunt May, they were playing cards, and they heard a noise in the back of the house. Ben decided that he would go see what it was, and when he got there, he found a man with a gun pointed at him. The robber demanded money, and Ben laughed, telling him that the robber had more money than any of them. That was it. A gunshot, and Uncle Ben was gone. But Peter wasn't about to lie around while the police failed to find the murderer, and he ran out of the house, changing into his costume. Many of you know where the story goes next, but Peter tracked the murderer down into a warehouse, and the police cornered him. He crawled in, and after pinning the man down, he realized that it was the same man, the one that he failed to stop after the deli robbery. If he had stood up and done the right thing at that moment, this never would have happened. So he strung the robber up, refusing to kill him. Peter thought back to the full conversation that Uncle Ben had with him about his father, and he remembered the words exactly. Great things are going to happen in your life, Peter. Great things. And with that will come great responsibility. He looked at his mask with tears in his eyes, telling himself, I do now. He went off to become the hero that he was meant to be, saving kids from a burning building, beating up robbers and thugs, and stopping the crime of the city. But when he got home, he saw Mary Jane. She saw him and told him that Aunt May was staying at her house with her parents. He tried to talk to her, but he broke down crying. And she held him while he cried it out. This is the beginning of the life of Spider-Man, the Ultimate Universe. And everything's going perfectly on track, isn't it? It's not like he's going to have goblin fights, clone battles, and symbiotes controlling him, or will be. Because while you may recognize some of these stories, they will be different from what you know. And at the end of it all, Peter Parker will earn his reward. If you want to stay up to date on these videos, then please subscribe to the channel, as we will be attempting to bring them to you weekly. I'm Benny for Comic Story, and I'll see you next time right here.
Yeah, guys. Hopefully you are enjoying tonight. I am
Following our tale
now
of
going to
Spider-Man
continue
and
on with that
Ultimate
story.
Universe, known as the Ultimate Universe, we're going to need a big bad villain, aren't we? And what happened to Norman Osborn at the start of our tale? Last time in Ultimate Spider-Man, his powers were granted and he began to learn how to be the hero Spider-Man. But how was the rest of the city taking this turn of events? Well, J. Jonah Jameson wasn't exactly taking it lightly, because he saw a guy running around in his underwear and assumed that he had to be a menace. So he wants as much information as he can get on this Spider-Man.
I will check any comments very shortly, guys. I'm just still sorting out a few links over to Instagram. If you would like to leave a comment, it would be cool if you put them in the live chat down below, or you can leave them in the comment section down below too, guys. Or either, if you would like to come over to Instagram, again, I'm Luke084 Art and Games, same name, different place. At the moment, I'm still sorting a few things out, as this is new to me. But hopefully you will enjoy the story that has been told to you by Comic Storian. It is my favourite YouTuber, and I'll listen while I draw.
He's here! Using that as his entrance, Spider-Man arrives and he bolts into the building to see what exactly is happening.
If it isn't coming in clearly, guys, please let me know down below.
Spider-Man calls out to whoever did this, and a very large man in a torn cloak stands in front of him. As a hall monitor, I'm going to have to ask you for your hall pass, and the man's eyes glow. He begins to hurl fireballs at Spider-Man. He bounces off of the walls, alerting our villain to the fact that this is a fire hazard, and he throws the mysterious villain into the lockers. The villain gets up and begins to swing, continuing his silence. Spider-Man continues his jokes, until eventually the villain slams Spider-Man into a wall, launching him out of the school. He continues to squeeze Spider-Man, keeping him from breathing, and then he lands in a park and he jumps again. As they're leaping through the air, his cloak begins to come off, and Spider-Man sees a big green goblin face, which growls the word, Parker. Spider-Man looks at him, who are you? And instead of responding, he throws Spider-Man down into the streets below. He begins to panic. How survive this? Is this the end already? Until it dawns on him. His webbing! He whips it towards one building and then another building, begging for this to work. And then like a giant trampoline, it propels him back into the sky. He cheers out, excited that it actually worked, and then he thinks to himself, I wonder if my other idea will work. And he whips onto a nearby building, swinging into action and landing square into the goblin's back. As he gets a couple of shots in, the goblin reaches up, grabbing his head, and throws him back into the ground. He throws out two more thwifts, but the goblin dodges, and it attaches to the nearby helicopter. While they both stand there staring at each other, another problem has presented itself.
And guys, if you want to know how I did actually draw this picture, I did do this in...
Spider-Man tries to attach his webbing to the goblin, but he has too much sheer strength.
I did do this ink this earlier on, and I've taken a picture and I've put it into krita, and I'm just sort of faffing around, see what I can do, what I can change, what I can colour, before I colour it on page.
He shouts, "Stand down! I won't let you hurt these people!" But that's the moment that the officers in the helicopter take their shots, peppering the goblin's chest with bullets. Spider-Man calls out to them to stop shooting as the goblin holds his chest, all bloodied, and he looks at Spider-Man. "Parker!" he shouts as he leaps at him, but Spider-Man jumps over his head, dodging him, allowing the goblin to fall into the bay, where he falls deeper and deeper into the water.
Oh, hi guys, I've just noticed your comments.
The guy if they can, but instead the police open fire on Spider-Man. He dodges and he rolls out of the way, getting out of sight, before changing back into Peter and going back to the school. He stumbles out of the school, claiming that he was under a chalkboard, and Mary Jane rushes over, giving him a huge hug. Harry decides to tell everyone who that was at that very moment, and he informs the group that it was his father. Norman Osborn did not die in the lab. He changed into that thing, and now he's after Harry to kill him. As the police bring Harry in for questioning, Peter can't help but wonder what's to come next. I know this story is a bit short, but don't worry. These stories are about to get much, much longer as we dive deeper into the lore of Ultimate Spider-Man. Subscribe to the channel if you want to keep up to date with our weekly series of Ultimate Spider-Man, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ComicStoryman. And I'll see you next time right here.
Okay guys, I've got it open up now. What I'm going to do...
The Ultimate Universe,
oh no, it's going to carry on playing. What I'm going to do guys, if you can't hear me very well, it is probably best to turn your volume up a little bit, so you can hear me clearly. Otherwise, leave your comments in the comment section, and I can now see them as I've got my phone beside me, as normally I would be watching it on my screen.
The panel section images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by respective companies. Enjoy the recap, read dramatically to you. Our story begins as a man stands over a group of security guards, telling them that he's pretty sure he didn't get paid enough to take another hit, so they should probably just give him the money. Panicking, one of the guards tells him, "Just take the money, take whatever you want." And our mysterious man tells him, "No, I want you to crawl and bring it to me." And then a voice tells him, "You're so..." Peter swings by punching the man, asking, "Who are you supposed to be? The vibrator?" The man lifts his arms up to try and shock Peter, but as he does, Peter whips out his web onto the man's device, and he ends up shocking him. The security guards get up, and Peter asks if they're okay. The man want to call but one of the guards stops him, assuming he's also a criminal. "Just take the money!" Confused, Peter tells him, "What? No, just call the cops, will you?" The next day at school, Peter overhears some of the students talking about Spider-Man showing up in Brooklyn. One of them mentions that the paper was offering money for pictures of Spider-Man, which gives Peter an idea. So after school, he heads home and sets his camera up to begin taking photos. And as he does, he asks himself if he's really doing this. He really needs money, but this is a bit much. The next day, J. Jonah Jameson is shouting to everyone that he doesn't care what they want, he wants pictures of Spider-Man. And that's when he meets Peter Parker, holding out a picture of Spider-Man. Everyone stops to look, and Jonah takes the stack, asking, "Where in good God's green earth did you get these?" Peter tells him, "I called in a little while ago about them. I got them when Spider-Man came to my school." Jonah looks at them and asks, "Did you take these pictures?" And Peter tells him, "Yeah." We start sifting through all the photos, telling him each one of these is crap. From the bunch, there's one that he pulls out. Jonah eyeballs Peter up and down, and he says, "How old are you?" "I'm 16, sort of." Jonah tells him, "Fine, I'll give you 50 for it." But before Peter can ask anything, Betty Grant begins to scream at her computer, shouting that she will light this whole place on fire. Jonah asks her what's wrong, and Betty tells him that she's an associate book editor, not a web designer, and she can't get this thing to work. It constantly freezes. Peter looks down at the screen and tells them that he sees the problem, and with a few clicks, he clears out the script error. Jonah begins signing over the payment of the pictures and asks Peter again, "How old are you? You go to school or something? You need a job?" After accepting the job, Peter heads home for the night, and as he sleeps, he begins to have the same nightmare that's been haunting him ever since Uncle Ben's death. He wakes up screaming that he couldn't stop it. He just couldn't stop it. So the next day, he decides he's going to go look up information on that robber. And as he enters in the information, 2 links pop up, one with an image. The image shows the man with other thugs. And through a link of all of the thugs, Peter realizes that the man at the top of the list is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. Afterward, Peter spies the 3 thugs that he saw in the photo with Uncle Ben's killer. As the men head into their hideout, Peter kicks the men inside, telling everyone that he's here to sign up for the wet t-shirt contest. Dan goes to grab his gun, but Peter whips his webs out, knocking the gun out of his hand. The bigger man, Ox, steps up, and Peter punches him with all he's got, and quickly realizes punching Ox may not have been the best idea. He swings, knocking Peter into Dan, and then Montana cracks her whip, wrapping it around Peter's neck. She tells everyone that this is just a Fed trick. They need to throw this kid out and bolt the doors. Ox tells him that he's just being paranoid, but as Ox tries to swing again, Peter jumps up onto the wall. As he lands, he pulls on Montana's whip, and he throws him into Ox. He then webs up the two of them and throws Dan into the group. Peter looks at them and tells them, I know you guys work for the Kingpin. I would like to know where he's at. So they go ahead and spill the beans. They tell him that Kingpin is holding a fundraiser at his office on Friday. A real MVP VIP sort of thing. Real legit. Peter then realizes that they're kind of spilling the beans on a lot of information and asks, why are you telling me all this? The man says he works for Kingpin. Doesn't mean he has to like him. Seconds later, the front door is kicked in by two FBI agents bursting in, telling everyone to freeze. The woman stops for a moment and then says, it's him! It's Spider-Man! Peter tells them that it's really not what it looks like, and the agents tell him to put his hands in the air. Thinking quickly, he tells them, look at the time! I've really got to get going, and he jumps over the agents and swings away. The next day, Peter stops by the newsstand to read the headline. Spider-Man, Mob Menace. Later that night, as Peter heads over to the big VIP MVP thing that Kingpin's doing, he gets to the tower and he watches as Kingpin gives his speech. Peter tells himself that he's going to find a way to expose Kingpin. All of the drugs, thievery, and murder. All he does is write a check, and suddenly he's a good guy? Ironic, really. People think that Kingpin is a good guy, and Spider-Man is the bad guy. As Peter climbs up through the window, he begins to search through Kingpin's office, and then he suddenly notices a lens in the distance. Peter tells him that he's starting to get a funny feeling when things start to feel like they're about to go wrong again, almost like a spider sense kind of thing. And suddenly Kingpin appears reaching out, grabbing him. He asks if there's anything that he can do for him, and Peter spins around punching him, realizing that he's got to stop punching giant guys. Kingpin grabs a hold of his arm, asking who sent him, and through the pain of having his arm crushed, Peter tells him, Carson Daly! He kicks himself away, and Kingpin tells Electro to take care of this. He needs to get back down to his guests. Out of the group of men behind Peter, one man's eyes begin to glow, and electricity begins to spark around him. Electro fires the bolt of electricity, zapping away at Peter. Kingpin tells Electro that this is his office, you know. And after a few more blasts, Electro finally hits him. He tells him that he's sorry about the room, but this really isn't exact science or anything. And Kingpin tells him to just take off the mask. One of the pulls Peter's mask off to see that he's a kid. He then tells the men to call for Mr. Big. His presence is required. And Electro asks, what are we going to do about the kid? Toss him out the same way that he came in. And also find this Carson Daly person and destroy him. As Peter's body is thrown out the window, he slowly begins to wake up and tries to catch himself along the building. But as he does, he grabs onto a window by the ballroom and everyone watches as he slides down and falls off. A little while later, Peter heads home telling himself that he messed up bad. He got electrocuted, had his web shoes crushed, and his mask ripped off and then thrown out a skyscraper. Maybe he shouldn't have gone down there. The next day at Kingpin's tower, Kingpin shows Mr. Big Peter's mask, telling him, I had a visitor last night. Come into the office. He came into the office and started a fight, almost ruining my dinner party. Mr. Big laughs, stating, he sounds like that's Cahoots, not the steward. The entire room goes silent, and Mr. Big says, it's starting to sound like you have elevated yourself above all of us here common thugs, Mr. Kingpin. Rumor has it that you can't even get your hands dirty anymore. And Kingpin decides to respond to that. Finally, Mr. Big takes a stand. And then he looks at Ox and Montana, telling them, it's time to pick a side. Ox and Montana grab a hold of Mr. Big's arms, telling him, you have to understand. Kingpin takes off Mr. Big's hat and then slides Peter's mask onto him and begins to wrap his hands around his head. Kingpin's hands begin to come together and his grip begins to get tighter, and Mr. Big begins to scream out in pain. So finally, he stops screaming. The next morning, Peter watches the news as reports of the body of Mr. Big floating down the river wearing the mask of Peter are being aired. He tells himself being demasked isn't the worst thing to happen to a superhero. This right here is the worst thing that could happen to a superhero. The next day in class, the teacher begins to review what type of man Richard Nixon was when he was president and why he had everything recorded. The class begins to shout out answers, and one of them says that he was paranoid, to which the teacher tells him that that is correct. The teacher goes on asking, why would a paranoid man record all of the questionable dialogue? And Peter remembers back to when he saw the security footage in Kingpin's office. And he says, because he thought he was untouchable. After class, Peter begins searching online for security systems and finds the company name rather quickly, so he has an idea. And he emails the company stating that he's interested in getting security for his business. And he would like information on some of the systems that they use for their larger businesses. After heading home for that day, he checks his computer to find the security company emailed him back and told him the exact model that all of the large companies use, as well as a link to the technical pages for how they work. After watching everything that they've given him, he realizes that they record everything on DVDs, and he needs to get those DVDs. Because not only will they have a video of him being demasked, but it also will allow him to find out what the Kingpin has been doing. Later that night, Peter sets out and sneaks into Kingpin's tower. And once he gets inside, he sneaks up on the security guard who's monitoring the security system, knocking him out. Meanwhile, back upstairs, Kingpin talks with Electro and his men regarding the fact that they need to find that Spider-Man kid. Downstairs, Peter is fighting off the second security guard, and the guard fires a few shots, hitting the building's electrical panels. Suddenly, the whole building loses power. Now, with everyone knowing that someone is here, Peter runs over to the security server and rips the door off of the hinges. He cycles through a few discs and takes the ones with the date of him being there and a few of the extra ones. He then packs up and gets a funny feeling, and a bolt of electricity shoots by. He barely dodges the strike, and then a whip lashes out, wrapping around his neck. Peter looks back and sees Electro, and Electro tells him, "Don't worry, this will only hurt a lot." Peter manages to break free from the whip and begins fighting everyone and dodging their attacks. Dan starts shooting, but Peter asks him, "How many times do I have to tell you? No guns!" And he webs up his hands again. Before jumping away, Ox grabs a hold of Peter's leg and begins slamming him back and forth into the computers. Peter lays on the ground. Ox grabs him by the neck and tells him, "We should go on and bring you to the Kingpin." But as everyone looks at Peter, he shouts, "Acting! Ta-da!" And he kicks Montana and Electro away. Electro fires the bolt, but Peter dodges out of the way of that one, and the bolt ends up hitting.
Do you, Princess Bee, text this now?
Advertisement. We'll get rid of that second, guys. Sorry about that.
Hitting Ox. Montana, in response to that, cracks her whip as Electro is apologizing. And at the end of the whip is getting closer, Peter grabs it and pulls it to bring Montana to him and then kicks him back down. With Ox and Montana down, Electro begins firing away, trying to hit Peter. So he jumps down, grabbing him by the wrist, telling him, "I'm kind of curious as to how you got your powers. Are you a mutant?" And Electro responds with, "Are you?" Peter tells him that he asked first, so Electro tells him he's not a mutant. "But why would you care anyway?" Peter responds with, "I'm a huge science geek, so I'm kind of sort of into this stuff. I will say this, after they take care of you, we're going to be going after your friends and your family. They're all going to be fried." And Peter tells him, "If that's the case, then you can't be mad about me doing this." He kicks a water pipe and throws Electro into the pouring water. The water electrocutes him, and soon he begins to fall over. Looking down at everyone, Peter hears Ox trying to wake up. So he jumps down on him and tells him that if he wants to do the right thing, marks that incredibly stupid butt over to the cop and confess what they did. And then he begins to run towards the exit, thinking to himself, "He did it! He really did it! How cool is he?" But before he can open the door, Kingpin's voice tells him, "There is no way that you're going to leave here alive. So, who are you working for?" Peter stops and tells him, "I had something prepared for the next time we ever met. So, okay, here it goes. You were so fat that when you cut yourself shaving, marshmallow fluff comes out." Kingpin stares at him, and Peter goes on, "You're so fat that your high school yearbook photo was taken from a helicopter." Kingpin starts to grind his teeth. And Peter goes on to say another, but Kingpin begins yelling and charges after him. Peter jumps, telling him, "Hold on, I got one more." And just as the Kingpin reaches him, he dodges the rest of his attacks. For such an evil, arrogant guy, he didn't even just walk all over everyone. Kingpin begins to punch away again, and as he does, Peter webs his arms to the wall, telling him that he really didn't come here for a fight. So he shouts, "You're a dead man!" And then Peter webs his face. As everything goes dark, Kingpin rips himself from the wall and tears away at the webbing on his face to find nothing. The next day at the Daily Bugle, writer Ben Urich sits at his desk watching a video of the murder of Mr. Big. He then reads a note left to him that includes all sorts of goodies on Kingpin. P.S. Not for the squeamish. Elsewhere, Kingpin begins to read the headline, "American Kingpin of Crime Caught on Tape. Whereabouts unknown." His lawyer tells him not to worry, he'll get him out of this. But really, someone was murdered and it was caught on tape. Kingpin looks at him and he walks away. During all of this, Peter Parker and Mary Jane have been having an interesting relationship. He wants to go out with her, she seems to like him, but she's also seeing a bunch of other people. It's kind of confusing, but it's typical high school drama. But the next day after all of those events happen after school, Peter sits nervously with Mary Jane sitting on his bed and tells her, "So yeah, there's something I wanted to tell you." She stares at him, telling him okay. And he tells her, "Really, you can't tell anyone, like ever." And she tells him okay. And Peter tells her, "You gotta promise." So she says she promises. And after a few awkward moments of silence, he tells her, "I'm Spider-Man." She looks at him and asks, "What did you say? Like the superhero Spider-Man?" He tells her yes, and she bursts out laughing, so much so that she falls off the bed. She tells him to shut up. He's being such a goofball right now. He says that he knew that he would have to do this, and he begins jumping from wall to wall. She watches and stares, and Peter asks if she's going to be okay, and then she begins to scream. Peter tells her to be quiet. Aunt May's home, so you got up. But then May's voice shouts, "What's going on up there? Better not be any hanky-panky." After finally controlling herself, Mary Jane asks, "How did it happen?" And Peter explains that it happened when he went to Harry's dad's work and the spider bit him. That's when she realizes that the spider almost bit her, and she could have been Spider-Man too. And then the next part of the conversation goes on to what is he going to do because he's Spider-Man? And can she see the costume? But now that Mary Jane knows his origin and that he's Spider-Man, and that Kingpin has been revealed to be a really bad guy with ties to the individual that killed Uncle Ben, what's going to happen next for the Spider-Man storyline? If you want to know, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ComicStorian. We'll see you next time right here. Welcome back to the Ultimate Universe, where things are similar, but they're a slightly tad off. A little different, you would say. Almost like they were ultimate. It's time to continue our storyline of Ultimate Spider-Man with the first part of Volume 3. the video, Peter Parker began to accept himself as the city's new hero. After taking down Kingpin Wilson Fisk, Peter felt that he needed to tell someone who he was, and so he entrusted his childhood friend and admitted to Mary Jane that he was Spider-Man. He couldn't have been happier. Over at the medical facility, two doctors begin to review their newest patient. They begin to try and decide whose turn it is to clean out Dr. Octopus's bedpan. When the man slowly begins to wake up, Otto Octavius asks, "Why would you call me that? My name is Otto." And a metal arm begins to rise as he shouts, asking, "Why did you call me that?" Meanwhile, over at Midtown High, Peter and the rest of his classmates head over to the school pep rally. Colin mentions that he's starting to think that their new assignment of making a report on which superhero they would like to be seems pretty dumb. Everyone tells him that maybe it's him who's dumb, but Kong says that he's not so sure. All of these superheroes and mutants popping up. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe they should be watching out. Peter asks, "What do you mean by watch out?" Kong says that he's not sure. He just feels like there's going to be some real trouble real soon. A voice then tells them that it's a meteor, and everyone looks over to see a blonde girl skating along the wall. She says that it's kind of like when the meteor wiped out the dinosaurs, except for them, they know it's coming. She goes on telling everyone that things will be fine, because in a sense, they all have superpowers in their own way, even if they're not superpowered or mutants. Kong asks, "Who are you?" The girl tells him, Gwen Stacy. And it's her first day here, back over at the medical facility. Otto Octavius begins to wake up, and Hank Pym sits on his bed, telling him that it's good that he's awake, but it's time that they talk. He explains that there was an accident in Osborne Industries that left him in a coma for the last 3 months. Otto says that he doesn't really remember what happened, and as he tries to process it, he begins to feel the metal arms. He asks what have they done to him, and Hank goes on stating that during that accident, he suffered damage to his face and neck areas. But more notably, it seems that he was fused with his own mechanical harness. Though they're not sure as to how, the arms are locked into his central nervous system, and they react and function like normal arms. Otto Octavius leans up and shouts at them to take off his bandages, and as they slowly comes off, he sees the arms. Hank tells them that it could be a breakthrough with exciting possibilities. Perhaps they could work together. And Otto says that they found him like this. They could have taken this off of him, but they chose not to. Who do they think they are? Hank says that they can't say, but they are the United States government, and they can't really tell him where he is. The metal arms begin flailing, and one shoots through the chest of one of the other doctors. Otto then looks back over to Hank, demanding to know where he is. The next day at school, Kong comes to a conclusion that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Flash Thompson tells him that he's absolutely crazy, like completely crazy. But Kong said that it makes sense. That day in the field trip, Peter Parker got bitten by a spider, so he's Spider-Man. Just think about it. He broke his desk. He's super good at basketball now. That means that he's Spider-Man. Flash begins to laugh, and Kong tells him, watch. He's going to go kick Peter, and when he dodges it, that'll show everyone. Over at his locker, Peter's spider sense begins to go off, but instead of dodging it, he flat out takes the hit. In pain, Peter looks back asking, why would you do something like that? Through the crowd of students, a voice then asks what's their problem, and Gwen walks up to Kong, telling him that if he ever does that again, then everyone notices that Gwen's holding a knife. A teacher comes by asking what's going on, and as he gets through, Gwen drops the knife, obviously, because she doesn't want to get caught with it. The teacher then grabs Gwen by the arm and tells her that it's a great way to start her second day of school. Later, after school in the city, a man begins to run off after grabbing a woman's purse. The man tells everyone to watch it as he runs, and then suddenly, the purse is whipped out of his hand. Peter then jumps in, kicking the man, stating that feels better. He was looking for a big bald guy to knock out. The man tries to fight back, but Peter knocks him in the head and whips him to the ground. He then hops over telling the woman that he brought back her purse. It was his pleasure to help. But everyone, including the woman who was robbed, just stared at him. She grabs the purse and begins to run off. And Peter begins to say to everyone openly, why can't a guy in his underwear just go around the city helping people without them thinking that he's crazy or something? Back as Peter looks around, he notices that he's in front of the Daily Bugle. J. Jonah Jameson is watching. He asks if he's the guy who's been printing all that garbage about him just to sell papers. Because if so, he has one thing to say to him. He jumps up shouting, love it, it's hysterical, and he leaves. J. Jonah Jameson looks around and says that he thought Spider-Man was going to hit him. Maybe he should get back inside where it's safe. But as Jonah begins to move, he falls flat on his face with webbing covering his feet. Once inside, writer Ben Ulrich says that he got a lead on a recent murder on a woman in her home. The previous owner of the home was Dr. Otto Octavius. He explains that Otto was one of the chief scientists at Osborne Industries, one of the individuals that was thought dead during the explosion where Norman Osborn went missing. But he was in fact not dead. Sources state that Otto was taken to a government hospital somewhere in South Jersey, where he managed to escape. It's also said that Otto was being observed because of complications in his condition brought on by the explosion. J. Jonah Jameson asks, what does he mean by complications? And Ben tells him that he's unsure, but after what happened with Norman Osborn turning into the Goblin, it's safe to say that something fishy is going on. Jonah tells him it's okay, let's just assume that Otto killed the woman in her home. So the next question is, why? Ben says that no one would really know. Maybe he didn't expect her there when he went back to his old home, or maybe something horrible happened to him and he's gone crazy. Then outside of the office, Peter sits listening as Jonah tells Ben to go on and see what the good doctor has to say. Later that night, Otto Octavius sits in an office talking to himself. He knows what happened. It's all his fault. He paid him to give him his secrets from Norman. And when he ran out of uses for him, he tried to get rid of him. The only problem is, Otto Octavius doesn't know who he is. Otto shouts that he should have made sure that he was dead because now he's going to make him pay. The next day, Peter heads over to work, but while on his way there, he catches the TV showing off Kraven the Hunter. Kraven tells everyone that he and his TV show are coming from Australia all the way over to America to film his show. He has a big surprise for everyone, but he isn't going to be making the game.
Well, guys, this is the Ultimate Series,
a little while later,
and not the true story. So if you're used to a certain way that everything goes, in the Ultimate Series, the story is ever so slightly different. And this almost killed Spider-Man for me, as I got a few of the comics and a few.
After getting off of work, Peter suits up and heads over to Hammer Towers to find out what's going on.
A few of the
speaking with two shield agents.
graphic novels in my
Justin Hammer if he knows who Dr. Otto Octavius is, and Justin tells them no. But the agent
kind of glad they changed it up.
says that he just met him. Agent Carter then
I don't
says
like
that
the new
Fury
series,
would need a
but
better
it is
answer
good to
than
listen
that.
to
Carter then goes
while I
on to
draw.
explain how Otto was fused with the machine that gave him mechanical arms. But the explosion at Norman's plant left him with amnesia, and he seems to have come here for something. After they talk for a little while, Justin notices something in the window when he sees Spider-Man's head. The two agents spin around firing their blasters, barely missing Spider-Man. And Spider-Man figures that it might be as good a time as any to leave. The next morning, Kraven the Hunter's plane touches down in New York while his fans and reporters gather around to find out what his big announcement is. One reporter runs up telling him the world wants to know why he's going to be hunting in New York of all places, and he couldn't be hunting anywhere else. Kraven smiles, stating, "I'm here to hunt a very special kind of species. I'm here to hunt the one that they call Spider-Man." The reporter then asks, what's he going to do when he finds Spider-Man? And Kraven tells him, "I'm going to kill you with my bare hands." While Kraven makes his announcement, Peter watches back home, trying to figure out what he's going to do now. He's at Kraven the Hunter, a guy who's known for hunting down things and killing them, chasing him. A week later, he heads to school and begins his social studies class when Gwen Stacy is let back into the classroom. She tells everyone that she's sorry for pulling a knife and doesn't want anyone to think of her as a very incredible.
We will have a break every now and then. This is an advert break. I'm going to skip through this and I have to talk through it, obviously. There we go.
A crazy girl. But one thing that she does want to say is that she doesn't like bullets. Gwen takes her seat and the teacher says that they're going to the school assembly in about 10 minutes. But if they have any questions regarding their superhero project, now is the time to ask. One of the girls says that she feels like the assignment is a bad idea. This is supposed to be a social studies class, not a superhero dress-up class. Not long ago, the school was attacked by a mutant. Now they're supposed to dress up as one? The teacher says that the assignment is supposed to help them study the environment from a different perspective. And the girl responds with, it doesn't matter. She talked to her mother and she will be bringing it up at the next PTA meeting because mutant things shouldn't even be in the classroom. The teacher turns around asking if anyone else feels the same way, and Gwen smiles and raises her hand. Meanwhile, over in New York City, Justin Hammer heads out of his press conference while speaking with one of the scientists from his New Jersey facility. Justin tells him that they're going to need some major firepower. He needs to back up right away. The scientists think that their experiments are going smoothly and on track, but currently their subject, Flint Marco, is still adjusting to the experiments. A screen then changes to a man squirming in sand and screaming. Justin asks what the hell was that, and the scientist says that's Flint and the Sandman Project. The scientist then goes on to ask why he doesn't just accept the assistance of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Justin tells him that he will not, mainly because they're going to look around his facilities and they will find that he's in violation of the superhero test ban. That and how Otto Octavius was an industrial spy for him and that was sent over to Osborn Industries, and now believes that this explosion was somehow Justin Hammer's fault. A short while later, Justin arrives at a conference where he's about to announce the Energy Dome Project, a power plant offering an abundance of affordable and alternative energy sources. As he makes the stage, he explains that they are currently unveiling a groundbreaking energy technology with a hybrid of solar, electric, and nuclear energies. But as the announcement goes on, the video feed from the dome shows the scientists being attacked by Otto Octavius. Back in the school, the students all gather around for the assembly where the principal announces that they've all been brought here today to be informed that the school has been chosen to be the filming site for the Kraven the Hunter show. But as he goes on explaining the do's and the don'ts, he's told that there has been some trouble in the city, and the school is currently being placed under a lockdown. While the students all begin to panic, Mary Jane looks at Peter and tells him to go. Over at the dome, the police begin to arrive by helicopter, but one of the pilots tells the other that he may have a stowaway. The second pilot asks, what does he mean? And they both realize that hanging from a web, Spider-Man says that this idea was so much better in theory. One of the officers attempts to shoot Spider-Man, and he tells them to please stop and try to help. Then he swings, dodging the gunfire, and as he releases and crashes into the facility, he gets up yelling, "Ta-da!" And then he sees Otto Octavius standing there with a dead scientist. We're about to see the first fight of Doc Ock and Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe. If you want to keep up to date with your Ultimate Spider-Man Saturday morning cartoons, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can get your weekly dose of Ultimate Spider-Man all the way up to Spider-Man Homecoming. And don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ComicSwain, and I'll see you next time right here. Welcome back to the Ultimate Universe. Many things within this universe are the same, but just as many things are different. This is the continued Saturday morning story of Ultimate Spider-Man. When we last left off, he just met his newest villain, Doc Ock. After seeing the destruction caused by Otto Octavius, Peter goes to check on the surviving scientists that are crawling out of the debris. He tells the man to hang on, and then his spider sense begins to go off. Metal arms begin to shoot past Peter, hitting him in the head and knocking him down. Otto picks up Peter's body, asking, "What is this?"
I'm still here, I'm still drawing.
Peter mumbles out.
What do you think so far, as you've come back?
What? Peter tells him, "You're one to talk," and he claps his hands on the side of Otto's head. As Doc Ock stumbles backward, Peter kicks free by kicking him in the head and then knocking away his glasses. Otto goes to cover his eyes, and Peter tells him that that's the least of his problems. First of all, why the green jumpsuit? Peter webs up the metal arms, and as they flail around, the web stretches and then it snaps. Peter realizes that this could be a problem. The arms begin whipping around, and Peter blocks and dodges them. And then one of them shoots up, hitting him in the head. Doc Ock then picks up Peter's body and tries to hit him. But while Peter tries to defend himself, one of the arms begins to change, and it shocks Peter. His body is flung from the facility to the outside, where it bounces onto the pier. He then starts to wake back up and realizes that he can hear voices. And then his spider sense goes off again. He looks back to see the police SWAT team surrounding him, all pointing their guns at him. One of the officers shouts for him not to move, but they'll blow off his mutant freak head. The officers then get down and begin to place Spider-Man in handcuffs. But Agent Carter steps up, stating that she'll take it from here. The officers all argue that this is their bust. But while Agent Carter and the officer go on, Peter points, asking if Charlton Heston is over there. And of course everyone looks. He jumps up from the grips of the SHIELD officers and he begins to web up everyone before jumping off of the pier and into the water. Agent Carter shouts for everyone to go after him, but as the agents jump in after Peter, all they find is his torn suit. A little while later, he heads home to watch the news, and on it, Justin Hammer states that he's not sure who that Spider-Man guy was, but they all have their concerns that he is the one who attacked. Peter shouts, "Come on!" and Mary Jane tells him to just ignore it. He says that he's just trying to help people, but instead he keeps getting his butt kicked every time he goes out. Mary Jane suggests that maybe he should learn some kung fu or something, but really she needs to get going anyway. He can work on that later. She then gives him a kiss and says that she'll be by tomorrow after school so they can patch up the costume. Once Mary Jane leaves, Peter sits back down to watch the news, and all of the reporters begin to say how hopefully Craven will be around to teach that weasel Spider-Man a real lesson. But as Peter sits back down trying to figure out what his next move is, he hears Aunt May's voice asking him his own. He begins to panic as he's still in half of his Spider-Man costume, and he jumps out of the basement and crawls up to the bathroom. As he stumbles through the window, May hears that thump upstairs and asks what's going on. Peter says that he's having stomach problems, but he'll be fine. She tells him okay, well, she brought him dinner just in case he needs anything. And the next day at school, the camera crews begin to set up their scene with Craven when one of the workers explains to everyone that they need to try and act natural when Craven comes in. All of the students begin to gather around, and Gwen sees Peter and asks what happened. Did those jerks beat him up again? Peter tells her no, he just fell is all. And Mary Jane says, yeah, downstairs. But as Mary Jane gives Peter a glaring look, Gwen checks on his face, and Craven walks in. He heads over to the hole that was created in the fight between Spider-Man and Goblin, and he begins to sniff. Everyone watches as he examines the hole, and then he turns back. Peter looks as Craven begins to sniff through the crowd, and then he shoots a look right towards Peter Parker, and he keeps moving. Gwen asks if it's just her, or does that guy vaguely smell like kitty litter? Craven stops and glares at her. And Gwen waves back. Later, reports start to swarm around that Justin Hammer is trying to get a statement about what happened in the dome. Justin rushes by to get away, and as he heads up the elevator, he tells his assistant Judy that the whole thing is going rather poorly. But as the elevator opens, Spider-Man's voice asks him, "How do you think I feel?" Spider-Man is sitting at Justin Hammer's desk reading his address book, stating, "You stink, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the stinkiest, you're totally like a 14. One of Justin's bodyguards reaches for his gun, but Peter webs up his arm, and then he webs up the second bodyguard. As Judith pulls out her phone, he webs her up too. And after seeing that it was just a phone, he tells her, "My bad." Justin tells Spider-Man that he has some nerve, so he hops off the desk, stating, "You've got some real nerve. In fact, I was trying to help the other day. I already have a bad enough rep with the public. I just wanted to stop by and state that whatever you and Doc Ock have going on, you can have at it, because I'm going home." Justin Hammer stops for a second and then asks, "How much?" Peter responds quickly with, "What do you mean?" And Justin tells him, "The doctor. How much would it take for you to take care of him?" "How about 50,000? Peter responds rather angrily. "First you slammed me in the press, and now you're offering me money for something that I was going to do for free before I got slammed in the press?" Spider-Man leaps out the window stating, "You're what people refer to as a piece of work." And he leaves. Justin says that it was worth a shot, and then Judith says that there's a call for him. It's the doctor from the Jersey facility. The screen comes on with the doctor, and he doesn't say anything. Justin asks if he can hear them, and then blood begins to drip from his lip, and his body is thrown to the side. Doc Ock, Otto Octavius, appears on the screen, and Justin asks what is he doing. Otto tells him, "This is something of a payback for making me like this." Justin tells him, "If you have any issues with me, we need to talk face to face." And Doc Ock says, "That's true. Come meet me at this facility." A short while later, Justin heads out and notices that everyone in the cars is honking at him. Judith asks what they're honking for, and it's because Peter is riding atop of the limo. As Justin pulls up on his facility, he starts to see the news trucks all gathering around, and then he sees him. Doc Ock. Otto tells Justin to come out and admit his sins. The press will like to hear all about the things that are going on here. And then one of his metal arms begins to tap on the limo window. The driver said that he can get them out of here if they want to turn around. And Judy shouts for him to just do it then. So the driver floors it into reverse. As the limo begins to back out, a metal arm smashes through the window, and others begin to pick up the limo. Otto Octavius shouts that he will not deny him again. And then he begins to shake the limo as his eyes are suddenly webbed up. Spider-Man says that he can't watch this anymore, and he swings at kicking Doc Ock. He stares at the webbed up arms, and then one of them points towards him and switches to a gun. The arm begins to blindly fire at him and shoots towards the crowd. Doc Ock rips the webbing off of his face, and he asks Spider-Man, "Why does he keep showing up? Who are you? Another freak that Justin created?" As Peter hangs onto one of the metal arms, he tells him, "No, I'm a genetic freak all my own, thank you. You should rent yourself out as a ride for children." And then Spider-Man is smacked into the side of a newsman. Doc Ock keeps whipping around, hitting Spider-Man as the reporters all start to film the fight. Through their dodging, Doc Ock quickly manages to grab a hold of him, and then another arm reaches out and begins to shock him. But as it gets close, Peter webs it up, sending the shocker back towards Doc Ock. He's then flung from the grip, and Doc Ock makes his way towards the limo, calling out Justin. As he's getting ready to grab him, a web is shot, hitting Doc Ock's pants, and then he pulls him down. Doc Ock quickly pulls his pants back up, but Peter jumps in, punching him, stating, "I didn't take you for the tidy whities kind of guy." He then kicks Doc Ock and jumps onto him, slamming him into the ground. He webs up his face, and he grabs and rips off one of the metal arms. As the camera lights all focus on Spider-Man, he sits down exhausted, and then another light shines. As Kraven steps out, Peter simply responds with, "Come on, I have a curfew." Kraven shouts, "It is time to do battle." And Spider-Man asks him, "How about we go help the lady in the crushed limo over there?" Spider-Man jumps onto the limo and asks if everything's okay, and Judith says that Justin is dead from a heart attack. Spider-Man looks towards Kraven and says that he's going to rip the door off, so can he grab the girl or... And Kraven shouts, "We will do battle." So Spider-Man tells him, "No, we won't." Kraven shows his teeth, and Spider-Man asks, "You're kidding."
Yeah, advertisement.
It's going to be your husband. No, I want to be in charge of my own destiny.
Right? Then as Spider-Man asks that, Kraven lunges forward. So Spider-Man steps out of the way, causing him to fall down. Kraven continues to try and attack, and Spider-Man continues to tell him that he really needs to cut it out now. And after a few more swings, Spider-Man finally punches back, and knocking Kraven into a car, which knocks him out. Spider-Man then tells everyone, "I did tell him to stop. You all saw that, right?" And as the reporters continue to film him, Spider-Man heads over to the limo and helps Judith out. Judith tells him thank you for saving her, and the crowd begin cheering and clapping. And then one of the reporters walks up and tells him, "That was amazing." Spider-Man tells him, "No, it wasn't. 2 people died." As he begins to leave, the reporters ask if they can ask him a few questions. But he tells them no, he'd rather not. The reporter continues to pester him, telling him that what he did was amazing. Surely he would want to. And Spider-Man stops her and telling her, "You can return the favor by calling me a mutant freak or blaming this on me or something." They try to stop him again because maybe he would want to talk to them. They're live right now. And he tells her, "Fine." So the reporter asks, "What do you want the world to know, Spider-Man?" And he says that he is from a planet many galaxies far, far away. The reporters follow up with, "Really?" And Spider-Man says, "No, I'm just like Otto Octavius. I fell backwards into some powers. I just want to help people so that people like Otto Octavius can't hurt anyone." So the reporter asks, "Why wear a mask?" And Spider-Man says that it's because he has friends and family that he doesn't want to put into the spotlight, so he protects them by wearing the mask. Even though wearing the mask might be corny, and it even forces idiots like Kraven to try and come after him, or J. Jonah Jameson to trash him to sell papers, he really doesn't care. And the reporter asks, "Why don't you care?" So Spider-Man says, "It's because a guy a whole lot smarter than him told him that with great power comes great responsibility. But either way, the cops are coming. So if everyone's fine, it's time to go." He heads back home, and as soon as he opens the door, Aunt May asks where he's been. He says that he was at work, and May says that's funny because she called there and they said he hasn't been in all week. She gets up looking at his bruises and asks again, where was he? He says that he was fine. It was with Mary Jane. May sits back down, stating, okay. She doesn't mind if he doesn't respect her, but he will respect the rules of his house. And Mary Jane was the first person that she called. May then tells him that until he can stop lying, he's grounded, which means no more bugle, no more Mary Jane giggles in the basement. It's only school and home. Peter smiles, stating, finally, he's a hero who's also grounded. But over in the shield holding cells, Otto Octavius, Doc Ock, is sitting in his cell muttering to himself, asking who Spider-Man is, who could Spider-Man be? And slowly, as he keeps asking himself, he begins to remember something from his past, when Norman Osborn had him following a little kid named Parker. Our story of Ultimate Spider-Man has a long way to go, and the plan is to do this all the way up until Homecoming. So if you really like it, I need to know. Give this video a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you get Ultimate Spider-Man every Saturday. And guys, don't forget, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at ComicStorian. Thank you, and have a good day. Welcome to the Ultimate Universe, where things are similar yet different. In our continuing Saturday morning show, the Ultimate Spider-Man series.
Obviously, this isn't Saturday, guys, but do enjoy the background sounds, as they are from Comic Story, as he's saying there.
Now in our last video, Peter has faced off against Doc Ock and Kraven the Hunter. While Peter publicly stopped the two of them, the news groups began to show that maybe Spider-Man really wasn't the bad guy that J. Jonah Jameson made him out to be. Even though Peter saved the day, his late-night return forced Aunt May to ground him when he got home. Even returning home late the next morning, Peter headed to school, where Mary Jane tells him that she watched him last night. All of the news channels are covering it. Peter tells her that he knows, but even though he saved the day, he got into a lot of trouble coming home so late. Mary Jane asks what happened, and Peter tells her that since he got caught sneaking in at 3 o'clock in the morning, he's grounded, like forever. As Peter sits on a bleacher with Mary Jane, he tells her about everything that's going on, and how it might be best for them to lay low for a bit. Hang up the tights, focus back on school and reading, make sad faces to Aunt May, until she finally gives in to this whole grounded thing. And as the two of them go on, Mary Jane's face suddenly begins to change, as she sees Harry Osborn walking by. They both jump up, running over asking how he's been ever since the Green Goblin attack at school a little while ago. Harry says that he's glad to be back, but he was just going through some rough stuff back then, but everything's going to be better now. As Mary Jane hugs him, Harry then says that he actually came by to tell Peter that his father wants him to come over for dinner tonight. Mary Jane says that she thought his father was, but Harry stops her and says he's fine. Just with everything that's going on, he couldn't deal with it. But really, his father's fine. In fact, we're super close now. Peter says that he would love to go, but he's grounded. So, and Harry asks, since when does Peter Parker get grounded? But fine, and it'll just have to be some other time. After leaving school, Peter makes his way back home trying to figure out what's going on. Norman Osborn is back. He knows who Spider-Man is, so maybe he just wants to talk about it? Maybe help him to use these powers? But the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes that this is Norman Osborn, a piece of garbage mutant goblin that tried to kill him. So at least he's grounded, which will give him some time to figure this whole thing out. And as he walks into his house, he sees a limo parked out front. Peter walks inside, and Aunt May tells him that he should have told her that Harry was back in town. And he tells her that he just found out himself what's going on. The woman introduces herself as Miss Brooke, Norman's personal assistant. And May tells him that Harry's father sent over a limo so that they could all have dinner. Peter tries to state that he's grounded and that he really shouldn't go, but May stops him, stating that they sent a limo. He can go to dinner with them. Miss Brooke then says this is great news. They'll have Peter back by 8 or 9. And a little while later, they pull up to the Osborn penthouse with Harry running outside asking who's grounded now, huh? Peter tells him that he's nuts, and Harry says that maybe they should just park a limo out in front of his house until May forgets that he was ever grounded. The two take the elevator up, and Harry says that he still can't believe that him and MJ are an item now. Peter asks who told him that. He says that Mary Jane did. They talked on the phone for like an hour. The girl is totally in love. Peter then asks if she really said it like that, like using those exact words. And Harry looks at him asking, what? Didn't she tell you already? As the two go on, the elevator door dings, and Harry says that he's got to finish up with his therapist, but his father is in the back, just go knock on the door. Before Peter can even ask why he would want to talk to him, Harry leaves, and Miss Brooke directs Peter to the back room. Peter tries to figure out what Norman could want, but nothing bad should happen, right? There's too many people here. What could possibly go wrong? As he steps into the office, he sees a TV showing the news clip of his fight with Doc Ock. He then hears laughing when he pulled down Otto's pants. Norman then steps out stating that he watched that clip so many times. And then he asks, how do I look? Better or worse than the last time? Peter says that he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then Norman changes the channel showing Peter being bitten by a spider, and Peter asking what's going on. Norman responds by telling him, this whole Spider-Man crap, it's over. As of now, you belong to me. We've got bigger things to discuss. Peter looks around the room for a place to escape, but Norman goes on stating, you're wondering how I'm alive, right? Well, it's because I've evolved. He He takes out a syringe and he stabs himself into the neck, injecting a fluid inside. Peter's spider sense begins to go off, and then he watches as Norman falls over in pain. He begins to hit his desk, ripping his shirt off, and then Peter sees Norman's arm begin to change. As the transformation completes, Norman looks at Peter and asks, "So what was your question?" Norman stands over Peter, telling him, "I'm just trying to show you who's in charge here." Suddenly, the two of them hear Harry shouting, asking if everything's okay, and Norman tells him it's fine. He'll be right out. He then turns back to Peter and tells him that Harry has no idea that everyone around him has a secret identity, but thankfully, he's receiving the best hypnosis that money can buy. He takes out another syringe and injects himself, and after a groan of pain, Peter watches as Norman's arm slants back onto the desk, and it claws its way as he falls behind it. Peter runs to look behind it, and he sees Norman, and when Norman looks back, he asks, "Where were we?" He gets up and says, "Oh, that's right, the whole Spider-Man thing. As it turns out, I now own your genes. Therefore, you belong to me. You will do work for me, and there may be things that you don't understand. You might not even agree with them, but if you don't, well, I'll start torturing dear Aunt May. And if that doesn't set it, maybe I can destroy your little girlfriend. Mary Jane, right?" Harry calls out again, but Norman tells him that it's best that they go now. They have an understanding, right? Back in the main room, Harry says that he has a copy of the Dateline story about him and his father. He's totally going to check it out. He begins to play the video, and it shows Norman and Harry as Norman explains that the reason for him and his son's disappearance was due to the concerns of an attack at Oscorp. But as the video plays, Peter begins to panic, thinking about what Norman said he would do if he doesn't do what he says. He struggles and says that he's got to go, and he runs out of the room. Peter gets up to go after him, but Norman stops him, stating, "Just give him time. He'll be back tomorrow." Later at home, Peter walks in, and May asks how everything went, and Peter hardly answers her. May says that if he didn't want to go, she shouldn't have forced him. Peter says about the other night, he didn't mean to lie about it. May tells him that Mary Jane is his first girlfriend. They'll just chalk it up to experience. Peter then hugs May, and she asks if everything's okay, and he tells her that it's been a long day. Later at school, he's called into the school therapist to discuss a few things. He tries to tell her that he actually is about to take a test, but Dr. Bradley tells him that it will only be a few minutes. The first thing that she understands is that the Osborns are back in town. So did Norman reveal his new abilities? Peter asks, "What is this?" And Dr. Bradley goes on stating, "Did he threaten you? Did he mention that he's aware that you are Spider-Man?" Peter begins looking around the room, stating that there has to be someone else here, isn't there? And then as he looks out the window, his vision begins to blur, and as it fades, Peter says, "Gotta get out of town." Over by the window, the image of Nick Fury starts to become clear. He tells Peter to just relax. They have a lot of important things to discuss and not much time to do it. Peter sits back down and he asks, how does S.H.I.E.L.D. even know about it? And Nick looks at him, stating, "There isn't much in the world that I don't know." Dr. Bradley begins to list off some of the recent events, like viewing the Oscorp security footage and Otto's hypnosis transcripts. Peter gets up stating that he doesn't have time for this, but Nick tells him that he knows that Norman is going to ask him to kill him. And if he doesn't, he'll kill his aunt and whoever this Mary Jane is. Peter stops and Nick tells him to sit. They have much to discuss. He explains that Norman was working on something created for S.H.I.E.L.D. and after several years, S.H.I.E.L.D. has been in the market for a super soldier serum. There are several companies competing for S.H.I.E.L.D.'s attention. Oscorp made a good presentation, but they never came through a few years of development. Norman then rushed to put out something for people to see, but it ended up premature and thus resulted in the accident and the spider bite. Since all of that, Norman has blamed him for what happened, and he's been delusional with revenge ever since. Peter then asks if they know all of this stuff, why don't they just arrest Norman? And Nick says legally, Norman is off limits. The American government isn't allowed to spy on America on American soil, so technically we don't know any of this. Peter then asks why come to him. If they're not going to do anything to stop him, what's the point? And Nick tells him actually, he's come to tell him that he's going to be on his own, and they can't do anything until Norman does something wrong. Peter shouts, "He threatened my family! He turned himself into a monster! You can't do anything?" And Nick tells him again that technically they don't know anything. So if and when Norman makes a move on either of them, they're just going to have to sit back and keep watching. Later after school, Peter heads home. And just like the day before, there's another limo waiting in front of the house. As he walks up, he sees Miss Brooks walking out with May, and Peter asks what's going on. May tells him that Norman has invited them all over for dinner. So Peter pulls her aside, stating, "Can't go. Norman isn't a nice man. He might be a criminal." And as they talk, May looks back and quotes, "Never met a man with money who hasn't stepped on someone to get it." Peter asks, "What was that?" And May says that it was something that Ben used to state. Miss Brooke then walks up asking if everything's all right, and May tells her yes, but sadly they'll have to make it to the dinner another time. Miss Brooke tells her that it's too bad. Mr. Osborn is looking forward to meeting them, and May just says that another time is all. Later that night, Peter heads back to try and find information on Norman, and he begins to think that maybe he should just take off the mask. Expose Norman, take the hit publicly, and see what happens. Maybe go to jail, maybe not. But as he swings away, he sees a set of teeth grinning at him from the top of the building. Norman says, "I thought I told you to throw away the costume." And Peter stops and asks, "What did I ever do to you? Why bother me now?" Norman laughs. "What did you do?" Peter stops him, stating, "No, this whole thing was brought on by yourself. The spider biting me? Totally your fault. In fact, I should sue the crap out of you." Norman just tells him, "Soon you will learn, and you will learn that you owe me." And he takes off. Peter watches as Norman escapes, and as he looks down towards the street, he sees Harry helping Mary Jane out of the limo that just pulled up. But as Mary Jane steps out, Norman leaps down, snatching her, and he jumps away. However, just before he jumped off from the conversation, Norman was looking at the conversation that he had with Peter a bit differently. The voices were telling him that this is all Parker's fault.
They should kill him right now.
And then the voice tells him that there's a girl.
Go get the girl.
And that's when Norman made his move. Peter quickly chases after, shouting for someone to help. Nick, shield anyone! But as Norman lands on a bridge, Mary Jane calls out to Peter, and Peter tells Norman that he'll do whatever he wants, just let her go. So Norman throws Mary Jane over the ledge, and without a second thought, Peter follows. Back up top, though, a shield helicopter flies in, opening fire. Peter tries to catch Mary Jane before she can hit the water, and he webs onto her foot. He then webs back up, pulling Mary Jane towards him, and the two whip back and swing onto the bridge. Once they land, Peter says he did it. He caught her. And then he realizes Mary Jane isn't responding. Meanwhile, over at Triskelon Shield headquarters, Nick watches as Norman throws Mary Jane, and he gives the order to take a shot. Over on the bridge, two helicopters begin firing down at Norman until he falls to his knees. He looks up and he tells Nick that it's going to take a lot more than that to keep him down. Back down below, Peter tells her that she's got to wake up, and slowly her eyes begin to open. Mary Jane begins to ask what's going on, where is she? But before Peter can respond, the explosions of the helicopters can be heard above. Peter stops by one of the passing cabs, telling him that he needs to get her out of here. She'll tell him where to go, and the cab driver hops out telling Peter, "You're the man. You can do anything you need." Up top, Norman starts firing blasts at the helicopters, but as the blast is deflected by a shield, he says he didn't know that plasma shields were in combat. Peter tells him that that's the least of his problems, that he jumps in, cracking Norman across the head. Norman shouts, "How dare you! I will have your head!" And then Peter jumps in, picking up and knocking Norman back down. He jumps onto Norman and starts punching over and over and over, telling him, "You will never hurt anyone again!" And just as Peter is getting ready to take the last hit, Norman reaches up, grabbing him by the throat, and he gets a squeeze, trying to pop him. Suddenly, Peter's body is thrown to the side, and then the shield helicopters go back to firing. Through the bullets, Norman gets up and begins to escape. Meanwhile, Peter manages to catch himself before hitting the water. Peter then watches as Norman escapes, realizing that he's about to head back to his penthouse. Norman crashes into his office.
Nope. It's the same bloody advert again. Go away. Go away.
And he runs over to where he keeps the Oz Zero. But just before he can eject himself, he hears Harry asking if that's him. Harry sees Norman and he asks, "What did you do to my dad?" Just as Harry realizes that that is his dad. And Norman tells him, "Sell the door." Within seconds, Harry falls asleep and he falls to the ground. And then Norman goes back to the serum and he starts injecting multiple syringes until his body begins to change and grow even bigger. Peter says that he really hopes he doesn't plan on driving like that, or can he even hear him anymore over all that crap he just put into himself? Norman charges at Peter, and Peter steps in, punching Norman back down. He then leaps up to get away as Norman gets up, but as he does, Norman manages to catch him by the leg. Norman then throws Peter through the fish tank, spraying water everywhere, and as Peter lands, some of the water splashes onto Harry, and he slowly begins to wake back up. Norman gets up, grabbing Peter again, and as the light from the shield helicopter shines in, Harry sees his dad strangling Spider-Man. Norman begins to bend Spider-Man so that he can break his back, and he manages to kick upwards, freeing himself. Peter then webs up Norman, and then using his strength, Norman rips through it. He then sees Harry staring at him, and with that moment, Peter quickly grabs the desk and he throws it at Norman. The desk crashes onto him, and then Norman grabs it, throwing it out the window. Peter jumps to catch the desk from falling on the people down below, but as he does, Norman gets back up, squeezing down on Peter's head. Norman suddenly hears Harry calling out to him, and then he turns back, and Harry grabs a pile of rubble, and he stabs it into Norman's back. Norman turns back around to try and attack, but the serum begins to wear off, and Norman falls to the ground. Harry then looks at Spider-Man, asking why he did this, but before Spider-Man can answer, Harry faints. The SHIELD soldiers all storm in, and one of them checks Norman's pulse. Nick asks how he is, and the soldiers give him a thumbs up, tell him to take Norman away. Peter then asks if they're going to arrest Harry, but Nick tells him that they don't do that sort of thing. They'll have to deprogram the hypnotherapy and get him back to normal. Nick then tells Peter he knows this is a lot to take in, but the best thing for him to do now is keep this secret. No telling his family or girlfriend about what happened. Every time that he may want to confide in them, he inadvertently puts their lives at risk. Just relax and enjoy the youth while it's there. Peter snaps at him, telling him he doesn't want anything to do with their big boy world of theirs. And Nick tells him that he hardly has a choice. Even though right now he's a minor, the day that he turns 18, well, just try and enjoy your youth while it lasts. Peter turns around out of the building, and a soldier asks if he should go after him, but Nick just watches and tells them no, let the kid go. Peter tracks down where he told the cab to go, and as he enters into the warehouse, he asks if she's still there. Mary Jane runs down, hugging Peter, asking what happened. What happened to Harry? And Peter sits down, telling her he's gone. Again, she asks what happened to him. Peter doesn't want to tell her, because he doesn't want to talk about it right now. And that concludes Volume 4. Now, we're going to keep moving forward with these things, guys. So you're going to get Volume 5, you're going to get Volume 6. And it will be here every Saturday unless we have a movie or a special or something we have to do instead. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you next week right here at Comic Story. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Welcome back to Ultimate Spider-Man Saturdays. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, the Ultimate Universe was a different version of the Marvel Universe. Some things you know, some things were completely different. But the best stories that came out of the Ultimate Universe were the Ultimate Spider-Man storylines, and we've been bringing them to you just about every Saturday. Today we're going to be covering Volume 5. Now, in our last video, Peter found out that Norman Osborn is back in town. Norman invited Peter over to his penthouse to tell him that he knows that he's Spider-Man, and the whole thing about him being a superhero, it's now over. After injecting himself with a bunch of Oz serum, Peter managed to fight back Norman until Harry landed the final blow, stabbing him back. With everything that's been going on, Peter decided that it was time to focus on his schoolwork. But while sitting around in the library studying, Mary Jane runs in asking Peter if he's got his costume today. Peter asks her what's going on, so Mary Jane turns on the news and tells him that there's a giant rhino destroying things downtown. Peter runs back to suit up, and Mary Jane turns back to the TV singing, "My boyfriend's gonna kick your butt." As Peter runs over to his locker to grab his backpack, he turns the corner and sees Aunt May. He asks what she's doing here, and May tells him that she's here for a teacher-parents meeting. Peter tells her, actually, he's really busy right now, but that's when Peter's math teacher, Mr. Del Palma, opens the door stating that it's just about time. Why don't you both come in? As they enter and sit, Mr. Del Palma tells May that Peter is a rather exceptional student, but lately he's been rather distracted. She looks over at Peter, who's looking out the window, and then Peter turns back asking, what? Peter tells them both sorry, but he's actually supposed to be helping an exchange student right now. He feels kind of bad not being there. May tells him to go on ahead then. They'll talk more tonight during dinner. So he jumps up telling them thank you, and he runs out of the room. As he runs outside, he begins to hear someone sobbing over a pile of trash. He looks over to see Gwen sitting there in the trash, and he asks her if everything's okay. Through her sobs, she tells him no, she's fine. Loving life, in fact. Peter stops for a moment and tells her, okay, he's got to get going. But Gwen shouts, fine, go ahead and leave her, just like your mother did. Peter turns asking, what are you talking about? And Gwen says that she overheard her mother talking to someone. She's planning on leaving her father and saying how her life at home is terrible. Peter tries to tell her that maybe she's just trying to blow off some steam, but Gwen shouts, no! Her exact words were, my life in this house sickens me. I hate the people life stuck me with. She goes back to crying, and Peter realizes he really has to go. So he tries to tell her that he would love to stay, really, but he has something to do. Gwen tells him fine, but Peter tells her he'll be back and find her after school. He promises. After finally managing to get away, he suits up and swings downtown, and just as he arrives, he sees that everything has already been handled by Iron Man. And as he sits on the light post, Peter then hears a man shouting to him, asking, where were you 10 minutes ago? With no real answer, Peter swings back, thinking, at least he tried. A short while later, we're at the First National Bank. Ben Urich stops by due to some issues that he's having with his ATM card. But as him and the teller talk, there's a sudden crash behind him, and someone shouts, don't anyone move. He turns back, he sees Spider-Man holding one of the guards, telling everyone that this is a robbery. After Spider-Man robbed the bank, Ben hurried over to the Daily Bugle, where Jonah was more than happy to get that press rolling. While Jonah tells everyone to start getting to work on a new Spider-Man story, Peter walks by asking why everyone's running around. But before anyone can answer him, Peter overhears the others having concerns about Spider-Man now being a bad guy. Then begins to argue that the Spider-Man that he saw didn't seem like the normal Spider-Man. This one beat people. But Jonah shouts, telling him, it doesn't matter! We're gonna post this story, and that's that. So as the day went on, the front page of the Bugle began to report, Spider-Man, criminal! As Peter takes the subway home, he thanks whoever that was that robbed the bank using his costume. Fight.com, Kingpin, heck, even the Green Goblin was bad enough, but this beats all by far. That and the only person that he can even tell this all to would be Mary Jane, but even telling her about his powers is starting to seem like a mistake. Just as Peter begins to think to himself that he's going to find out whoever that is posing as him, he notices a police car in front of his house. He runs in asking if everything's all right, and then he sees Gwen sleeping on the couch. He then hears May speaking with Gwen's father, George, in the kitchen about Gwen's mother leaving them. As the two talk, May hears a creak and sees Peter standing there. She tells him that Captain Stacy here is going to be out of town for a bit, so she offered to let Gwen stay with them until he gets back. Not much longer later, Mary Jane stops by and Peter explains the situation with Gwen staying with them. Mary Jane then asks, why is she here, though? And Peter says, because her mother up and left and her father is going out of town, but then he stops asking, the way you said that was kind of angry. Are you angry? She begins to shout, what is she supposed to think with Gwen sleeping here, in her pajamas? Peter tries to calm her down, and then he asks, wait, do you not trust me? And Mary Jane tells him, I don't trust her. I see what's going on with her. Did you tell her that you're Spider-Man yet? Peter begins to ask, what are you even talking about? But Mary Jane doesn't answer and she leaves. Afterwards, Peter heads upstairs to study and Gwen says that she thought Mary Jane was supposed to join them. He tells her that he's not sure what happened with that, but then the news comes on the TV and the reports announce that there is currently a standoff with Spider-Man and the police. Peter looks at the TV and tells May that he has to run over to Mary Jane's for a second. He rushes back downtown to see the police surrounding a jewelry store, shouting for that fake Spider-Man to come out. Peter swings by and tells them to allow him. He's dying to talk to this guy himself. As Peter jumps onto the building, the police all shout for him to get down and put his hands up. He shouts, hey, I'm not the one robbing anything here. Heck, I don't even have pockets in this thing. One of the officers shouts to take him down, and they all begin to open fire on Spider-Man. Most of the bullets fly past, but one hits Peter in the shoulder, and he begins to fall. The officers all rush in to handcuff Peter, and Peter shouts to them to just listen for a second. The officers don't, and they pick him up, slamming him back onto their car, and they begin to pull his mask off. But as they do, Peter kicks back, knocking the officers away, and he jumps. As he begins to run, the officers open fire again, but this time Peter manages to dodge them all and run. He tells them that he needs to hurry. He has to fix his mask, and he also needs to get out of here. Using all of the strength that he has, he pulls the cuffs apart, and then a spotlight begins to shine down on him. The police helicopter begins to fly overhead, and one of the men hangs out, shooting a rifle down at him. After a short sprint, Peter manages to jump back down towards the ground and hide away in a dumpster. But over at Mary Jane's room, she's sitting writing in her journal about how lately she's been having nightmares, which is not normal for her. As she writes, she begins to hear her phone go off and an operator tell her that there's a collect call coming from Peter Parker. She tells him that she'll accept, and soon the line connects, and he says that his aunt just called looking for him. She's said to be home in 45 minutes, but as she stops, she asks, what is he doing there? And all she can hear Peter saying is, help me. After a cab ride later, Mary Jane rushes to the dumpster that Peter told her to meet him at and finds him holding a gunshot wound. She tells him they need to hurry and get him to a hospital, and Peter says they can't. They'll just arrest him there. Mary Jane tells him no, they're going to the hospital. She knows just how to do it. So a short while later, she takes Peter to the hospital. Without saying anything, Peter stumbles in and collapses onto a doctor. One of the doctors looks at Mary Jane and asks if he's with her. She tells him no, and then he shouts for the others that they need to hurry and get him to the operating room. After surgery, Peter slowly begins to wake back up, and then he overhears the doctors speaking with some of the officers that they have a kid who just came in from a gunshot wound. The officer says that they're going to need to go and see and get a name out of him. And as they pull back the curtains, Peter is already gone. Back in the waiting room, Mary Jane waits to hear from Peter when the woman next to her looks at her. She looks down and sees her bag and notices the costume. Mary Jane just closes it. An officer comes out of the back stating that they need to lock this place down. The person in question has fled. So Mary Jane gets up and leaves, and as the doctor from before points at her, telling her to wait, Mary Jane begins to run. After getting away, Peter and Mary Jane meet back up in a nearby building. And Mary Jane says that was so cool. Can you swing us home now? Peter tells her no. He's hopped up on painkillers, and he doesn't even know how to find home right now.
I'm sick of it. We spend all day.
Oh, God, that hurts. Go away.
So not long after, May begins to wake up from sleeping on the couch since Peter hasn't come home. As she gets up, she checks on his room to see he's already fast asleep and decides to let him be for now. But as soon as the door shuts, Peter gets back up in pain and decides to just put on the news for a bit. As the TV comes on, the reporters interview Sergeant Bullet regarding the recent rumor that the man known as Spider-Man has now attempted to rob another bank. Bullet tells the camera that he wants to make things perfectly clear. Vigilante behavior will not be tolerated in this city, masks or not. As for Spider-Man, he is a coward and a thief, and he will pay for what he has done. The next day at school, Peter heads over to his locker to find a letter addressed to him, and he opens it and it reads, "Black man in the parking lot. I'll take care of the shoulder." Peter checks around to see if anyone was looking when he read it, and when he sees there wasn't, he decides to check out the van. He goes out there to find it, and the door suddenly slides open. A woman leans out telling him that her name is Janet Van Dyne, Nick Fury's center. Peter tells her that he doesn't need Nick Fury's help, and she tells him yes he does. So Peter winces, stating, "Fine, maybe I do." Once they get inside, Peter looks at Janet and asks if she is, and she tells him yes. She's the Wasp, card-carrying member of the Ultimates. If you're curious as to who the Ultimates are, they're this universe's Avengers. But as she looks at the wound, she says, "Actually, you're already healing pretty well. Do you have an increased healing factor?" And Peter tells her he's not sure, maybe. He hasn't been able to do much research on it. Janet tells him that's all right. She has something here that it was a chemical in chicken that helped increase the healing of humans. So with a little playing around, she whipped up a little cocktail from his own blood samples. As she injects Peter with the medicine, he asks how did they get a blood sample, and she tells him that Nick got one from him. He should just consider himself lucky that they happen to be watching the news. Peter then asks if Nick mentioned anything about the guy who's running around robbing banks posing as him. Janet tells him no, and no offense, they don't really focus on the small things. But she will say if someone was running around in her costume, she would go and beat the holy snot out of them. After school, Peter, Mary Jane, and Gwen all head back to Peter's house, where they are suddenly stopped as they see several police cars lining in front of the house. Peter runs inside shouting what's going on, but as the girls walk in, the two officers stand up. Gwen looks at them as they look at her, and they hand her George Stacy's badge. The officers explain that while they were at a police conference, Spider-Man was robbing an armored truck. They opened fire with their guns at him, and they hit his backpack, and it began to smoke. Spider-Man took the backpack off and threw it towards a small child. George ran in, grabbing the child, throwing him to safety, but as the bag landed in his lap, it exploded. Later that night, Peter and Mary Jane went to sit with Gwen on the roof as Peter tells her that her father was a hero. The only thing that she can say is, this is all because of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's faults. Peter tries
Okay, guys, still sort of working with krita. This is kind of a new way of doing things to me. I normally take somebody else's art and sort of change it a little bit, sort of learn how things work, how different tones work. I'm hoping you are enjoying today's stream, and you're liking the way I'm creating this piece. And yeah, guys, if you want to find out how I actually drew this piece here, go over to my video earlier on, and where I inked the piece from pencil sketch to the ink image that you see now.
Peter catches it. He then gets up stating, if it's money you want, you can have it. It's right over there. Peter webs the man's chest and swings him towards him, asking, why me? Why use my costume? As he rips the man's mask off, the man says that it was nothing personal. Honest, he's just some guy. Peter throws the man, shouting, some guy? The world thinks Spider-Man is now a murderer, and it's all because of some guy who decided to put on my costume. He grabs the man by the throat, asking, what stops me from murdering you then? The grip around the man's throat tightens as Peter stares into his eyes, and then he lets go. He looks at himself for what he has just done. But as the police storm inside, they see the man hanging with a note. The man says, please, get me out of here. It was all me. I acted alone. And the officers take the note off as it reads, from the real Spider-Man. He heads off and stops back at home, telling himself, he almost lost it. He could have killed that man. And then what would he be? But later, as Peter heads home, they find Peter up front and tells him that they need to talk. Inside, Peter and May head into the room where Gwen Stacy is staying, and they tell her, due to her situation with her mother, they were hoping that she may consider staying with them. The next day at school, Peter tells Mary Jane that they're going to be finishing up moving the rest of Gwen's stuff in and see what happens. And as he says that, Mary Jane turns away. She says that this isn't it. She thought it was, but this isn't it. Peter asks what she's talking about, and she shouts, us! This isn't what she thought it was going to be like. But now, every night, she has nightmares. Horrible nightmares where he dies or she dies every night. Ever since that day in the bridge, she thought she could handle having a superhero boyfriend, but no, she can't. And the worst part is, she can't even tell him to stop because he won't. It's going to kill him one day. Then this, Gwen staying over, she's totally in love with you. Peter tries to tell her no, but Mary Jane just shouts, no, I'm not stupid. I just can't do this anymore. I love you, but I can't do this anymore. We're officially done, Peter Parker. And that concludes Volume 5. Now, I love the Ultimate Spider-Man series, but it does have a slow start, and now we're starting to get to the good bits. I hope you guys are enjoying this, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because every Saturday we're bringing you the Ultimate Spider-Man saga, all the way from the beginning to the end. And oh boy, does it end in one epic manner. Trust me, we pace this all the way out until that whole movie comes out. Hope you guys enjoy, and don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ComicStorian, and I'll see you next time right here. Welcome back to the Ultimate Spider-Man storyline. Today we're going to be continuing with Volume 6, with a segment of the superhero storyline that a lot of you have been waiting for, the Black Symbiote. If you're just joining us for the first time, every Saturday morning you can find yourself watching some Ultimate Spider-Man right here at ComicStorian, catching yourself on one of the better Spider-Man storylines in the last 15 years. It does have an eventual conclusion, though, so make sure you keep up to date with it by following this channel. Now, in our last video, Peter found himself the target of a copycat superhero who was actually robbing the banks, posing as him. While during another robbery, Peter set out to find out who this man was. It turned out that it was just a random guy. In the end, Peter managed to stop that man, and Mary Jane told him that she couldn't be with him anymore because of his superhero lifestyle. So he went home after school, and all he could do was think about Mary Jane. With everything that's going on in his life, she's the only person that he could talk to, and now she's gone. Peter thinks that maybe he should just call her. If she hears his voice, maybe she'll come around. She was supposed to love him, but just as Peter gets the courage to dial, he throws the phone aside, stating, no, it's a stupid idea. As the phone flies through the air and crashes into the wall, Peter goes to pick it back up and then notices a door behind a box where the phone landed. He pushes open the small wooden door and finds boxes, all of them marked Parker. After going through a few of them, he finds old pictures of himself and his father, and among them a videotape. He runs up to his room to play the video and sees that it was from when he was a small child. His family was having a picnic with Aunt May and Uncle Ben and another family. As Peter continues to watch, though, May walks up behind him asking where did he find this. He tells her that he found a bunch of old boxes in the basement, but May stops him, telling him that her and Ben were waiting until he was old enough to see this. It seems that now he's old enough. Peter kind of remembers that other family, the Brocks. He was his father's partner, and May tells him that that's right. He used to play with Eddie Jr., even though he was a bit older. And after the accident of both of their parents, Eddie moved away. May then suggests that maybe he should try and find Eddie. Maybe he can tell him what he found. So Peter does just that, and after a quick internet search, he manages to find Eddie's address and even a phone number. So Peter calls and actually gets a hold of Eddie Jr. The two of them talk for a while, and Eddie says that they should meet up, catch up all the time. And the next day, Peter stops by Eddie's dorm room to head up for some coffee. As they sit, Eddie says that he's actually going to college for astrophysics. Peter tells him that that's actually what his major is going to be as well. Eddie laughs, telling him that it would just be like them, trying to impress their fathers. Peter tells him actually that's what he wanted to come by for. While going through his father's old things, there was a videotape of all of them having a picnic. Eddie thinks back to that day and he's just amazed. And then he says that since they're on this topic, he has something for Peter as well. A little while later, Eddie takes Peter over to a lab that he's been using for school to show him something. As Eddie opens up the small locker, Peter sees a small beaker full of black liquid, and he asks what it is. Eddie grins and tells him that is their inheritance. He goes on to state that this is what their fathers were working on. This is their life's work, or rather, what it would have been if they were given a chance to continue their life's work. Peter asks what's it supposed to be, and Eddie says that currently it's just a pile of protoplasmic goo. But what it's supposed to be is a cure for cancer. Though he wasn't able to make much sense of it, his professor has been helping him get through some of it when they happened to come across this. He takes out another small container and pulls out a sheet of paper labeled the suit. He explains that the suit was supposed to attach itself to a person tailored to their specific DNA. And what it would do is help the body produce its own natural toxins to fight off the cancer. The current work has brought them to phase 2, which was supposed to enhance the physical strengths and natural abilities of the patient. But with them running out of their funding, their fathers took up jobs with Trask Industries to try and support it. However, because they were work for hire, it meant that everything that they were working on was technically owned by that company, which meant the suit as well. Eddie then hands Peter a journal left by Eddie Sr. stating that he was the one who pushed Ray into working for this company when Ray said that they should. Because of it, now they're going through lawsuits to try and finish the project that they spent their lives working on. As Peter flips through the paperwork, Eddie tells him that that's the last part, was just 2 before, but under his breath, Peter tells him no. And Eddie says that it all happened just as they were coming back from their meeting with the lawyers. But Peter then asks if that's the case, what's with the black stuff? And Eddie says that it was something that they were working on behind Trask's back. It was supposed to be used as proof of ownership of the suit, but they didn't get far enough with it. Eddie begins to pack up everything, saying how their fathers were really onto something, but they may have been several years ahead of their time. Professor Connor said that even if the suit didn't work, it would still create some interesting questions. Peter thinks back and tells Eddie that he mentioned something about the suit being made for someone's specific DNA. Just who did they use to test it on? Eddie begins to place the beaker back into the locker, and he tells him that they used Ray's DNA. The following night, Peter goes over the tapes more and more, watching how his father would talk about this project. But as the videos went on, it showed Ray dealing with the lawsuits and talking about how all he wanted to do was just help people. Now their work will just be taken over and there's nothing they can even do. As Peter heard that, he decided no, there's always some company trying to take someone else's work and make profit on, but not this time. He will finish what his father started. All he needs to do is get a small sample of the stuff that Eddie has kept locked away. So he sneaks back into the labs and pulls out a sample from the beaker, but he spills it onto his hands. His spider sense begins to go crazy, and the liquid begins to spread, covering his hands. It doesn't stop, and it continues covering the rest of his arm and soon his entire body. Peter tries to pull it off, but soon all that's left is a smoldering black blob. As the outer crust hardens, Peter bursts out of it. But what he finds is that the suit is completely covered in. Elsewhere in the city, a pop singer has finished her concert, and she's getting ready to leave when she's suddenly taken hostage. As her limo speeds off, the men inside wearing masks tell her that she made more than enough money to pay for a ransom, right? However, as the men drive off, they hear a loud thump on the roof of the limo. Seconds later, Peter opens up the roof, jumping into the passenger seat, asking if it's prom season already. Everyone stares at him, and he asks, what? Prom season? Limo? Still with no answer, Peter punches the driver, stating, tough crowd. One of the men in the back fires, hitting Peter in the shoulder, but the new suit takes the hit and just repairs itself. Peter then quickly shoots a web back, covering up the gun, and then another web at the second man. The men begin to scream, and Peter shouts that they need to settle down, or he will pull this car over right now. The singer too begins to scream, so Peter webs up her mouth, telling her that he's sorry, but he already has a little bit of a headache, so... And finally, after stopping the limo, Peter gets out and lets the singer out and tells everyone that, for the record, they're just friends. An officer pulls up telling Peter to put his hands in the air, and as he does, he fires a weapon and swings away. He tells himself that this suit is amazing. Whatever his dad invented is just amazing. First taking that bullet, and he's also stronger and faster. All he has to do is think and a web appears. Over at the coin laundry, a man fires a gun, running out, telling people that he told them not to move. Peter chases down the man and corners him in a dark alley. But as he crawls down towards him, the man begins to fire, and Peter just knocks the gun out of his hand and throws it into a pile of boxes. He grabs the man, telling him that there's nowhere that he can hide, and as he looks, he sees a flashback to the shooter who shot Ben. Peter mutters that he was the one. He was the one who killed Uncle Ben. The man said that he didn't know that the man that he shot was his uncle, and then Peter screams. The suit begins to grow fangs and a long whip-like tongue. His voice changes as he screams to the man that he doesn't deserve to live! He doesn't deserve life! Peter begins to strangle him, and the man tries to tell him to stop, but suddenly Peter starts to pull the suit away, throwing the man, asking, "What's happening?" As he struggles, the suit and him struggle to gain control over his body, and Peter runs through the city. After leaping off of a building, he lands on a set of power lines, frying both him and the suit. Back over at Eddie's door, he turns on the TV to see a news report on Spider-Man, showing off the new black suit. As Eddie watches, he begins to think that it couldn't be, and then he starts to head over to the lab. Once he gets inside, he sees Peter standing there holding the beaker, and he asks if that's him, and then he looks up to see the window open and a set of handed footprints crawling in. Eddie shouts, "What have you done?" And Peter tells him it's not what he thinks. Something horrible has happened. The thing that their fathers created is uncontrollable. It must be destroyed. Eddie grabs for the beaker, and Peter lifts Eddie by his shirt, and the two stare at each other. After realizing it, Peter sets Eddie back down, and Eddie tells him, You're Spider-Man." Peter tells him that that doesn't matter right now. What they need to do is destroy this. He'll explain everything after that is done. A few minutes pass, and Eddie tells him that is all that's left of his father. Peter tells him he knows exactly how he feels, but this caused him to almost kill a man. This is a cancer. Even with only spilling a drop, it took over, and without his powers, there would have been no way that he could have survived it. There are people out there who would go to extreme lengths to have this, and that's why they have to destroy it. Eddie sighs, telling him, it's not like he can stop him anyway. Peter says, look, right now he's the only one who knows about him and his powers. That's how important this is. This stuff is way too dangerous. Eddie takes a seat and he says that he's amazing. He looks 12, but look at what he's accomplished. The two smile and Eddie gets back up, telling him that he just needs to go and digest all of this for a bit. He'll be fine. So after Eddie leaves, Peter makes his way over to the power plant to drop the beaker onto a smokestack to incinerate the liquid. But a short while after Peter left to go do that, Eddie returned to the lab. He checks the locker where he keeps the beakers, and he sees that it's empty. He says that he really did it. The little jerk took it, and then opens a second locker, stating how if they're going to experiment, they need to keep the specimens separate. And he pulls out a second beaker filled with more black liquid, and he drips it on his hand. And that brings us to the halfway mark of Volume 6, where we have the entire Black Spider-Man arc really shrunk down into this 4-issue arc. But the next one, that's when we're going to finally meet the Ultimate Venom. So I hope you're excited about that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with your Saturday morning Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, or, you reading the comic book to you. And don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram @ComicStory, and I'll see you next time right here.
Do you take this man to be your husband? No! I want to be in charge of my own destiny.
So how'd it go? Welcome back to the complete story series for Ultimate Spider-Man, your favorite Saturday morning cartoon. I know you enjoy it. If you're wondering what this series is, this is the best place to get your dramatic recaps here on YouTube. We take your favorite comic books and then we add some epic music, some interesting voiceovers, and we give you the panels without the text, because the text, that would involve copyright problems, which is why all alterations of the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective company. Now, this is the second half of Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 6. And in the first half, we discovered Eddie Brock, and we discovered that there was a black symbiote situation that attached itself to Peter Parker until he realized that it was starting to control him. So he ditched it and he destroyed it. Except Eddie Brock saw this as his inheritance from his and Peter Parker's father, since they were the scientists that created the symbiote, that he wasn't about to let Spider-Man destroy it. A janitor stops by the lab to clean when she suddenly hears a man groaning. She steps into the room to see where the sounds are coming from, and then she finds a smoldering blob, and Eddie's voice all distorted as he says, "I'm cold." The woman asks if someone is in there and reaches out to it. The blob lashes out, grabbing the woman, and then shows its face. as it stuffs her into its mouth. The room falls silent and Eddie pulls himself up, saying to the room, I'm hungry, but I can't feel anything. I can't even feel my legs. This is all Peter's fault. I need to kill him. I need to kill Spider-Man. The suit begins to wrap itself around Eddie's body and he shouts, I can do this. I can hold it together. But why can't I feel my heart beating? After a bit of struggling, Eddie stands back up, now with the suit completely covering him, and he tells himself, okay. The suit tries to take back over, but the two guards appear asking, what's going on? But when they look in, they see a creature standing before them, screaming. One of the guards radios to call the cops, but Eddie grabs the two of them and devours them. The next day at school, Peter sits in class as the rain begins to beat down on the window, when he suddenly feels his spidey sense going off. He looks around, and when he looks outside, he sees lightning striking, and the image of the suit outside screaming. He asks how. The suit shouldn't be there. He destroyed it, but now it's here, and he needs to end this. He leaves class, heading outside into the rain to face off against the suit that caused him so many problems earlier. But then it tells him that he shouldn't have lied. Peter watches as he sees a face try to push itself out, and then he asks, is that? And Eddie pulls himself out, shouting, our fathers tried to create this. Now you will too. Peter tells him, please tell me you didn't do this to yourself on purpose. But without answering, Eddie throws a barbed tendril into attack. Peter grabs it, shouting, this isn't you! This is just the suit! Let me help you! And Eddie shouts, you will die! Then he lunges forward. The tendrils wrap around Peter's neck and slam him into the ground. Peter screams out of pain, trying to free himself, all the while telling Eddie, you can fight this, you have to! Suddenly Eddie stops and he screams. But as Peter reaches out, Eddie lashes again, knocking him to the ground. Peter tells him, fine, I've had enough of this. He jumps, leading Eddie away from the school, and once they're clear of it, they jump at each other swinging. Eddie quickly overpowers Peter and pushes them off of the building. But as they fall, they break through the power lines, shocking the both of them. They fall onto a passing car, causing the car to crash into the side of a building. Peter gets back up, seeing Eddie knocked out, and as he gets closer, his spidey sense begins to go off, and the suit grabs him. As it begins to pull him into the blob, Eddie asks, how does it feel? How does it feel to be a thief and a liar? But to survive, the suit needs you. It needs to absorb you. Everything begins to fade to black, and Peter jumps out of the blob, shouting, no! But Eddie screams, we need you! Before Eddie can get back up and attack, Peter runs back in with a tire, cracking and shattering Eddie's face. As Eddie's body flies over the power lines, the sounds of sirens can be heard, and then officers begin to shout for them to stop what they're doing. Peter tells Eddie that he needs to listen, but as the officer sees Eddie in the suit, they open fire on him. Eddie screams out in pain as the officers unload into him, but as he stumbles back, he steps on a live electrical wire. The electricity shoots through Eddie's body, and in a blinding flash, he's turned into a burning puddle. The officers all call out to Peter, but he climbs up the building and escapes. Elsewhere in the city, Nick Fury sits to enjoy his evening dinner when he receives a notification on his watch. He pays the waiter and he walks over to a nearby alley, and as he stands there, he flashes a light, and across from him, someone falls into the dumpster. Nick asks Peter why he's following him, and Peter pulls himself out and asks, what the hell is that? Nick tells him that it's something that temporarily paralyzes a person. So how long has he been following him? Peter tells him he's not sure since he left their headquarters. Nick laughs, telling him he just followed the leader of the top espionage organization on the entire planet for over an hour. Not bad. So that leads them back to the first question. What do you want? Peter shouts that he doesn't want his powers anymore. Take them. Do whatever they need to do to get rid of them. He just wants his life back. Nick looks at him and plainly tells him, no. Now explain what happened. Through his staggered breathing, Peter tries to explain what happened to Eddie and how he tried to stop him, but Nick then asks, where is he now, or was he killed? Peter says he doesn't know if he was. And Nick asks, you're not sure if you killed someone? Peter tells him he thinks he did kill him, but the body disappeared. Nick then says that there's not many actual rules in this game, but one big one is that if there's no corpse, then the guy's alive. Peter stops him, shouting, look, I don't want this. Do the right thing and end this. But Nick places his hand on Peter's shoulder, telling him, you've had a rough day. The important thing to ask yourself is if doing what you did today made someone's life better. The answer is yes. Stop whining. Once you're older, you're going to be a part of one of the finest organizations in the world. You'll be working alongside Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, and Captain America. While Nick goes on, Peter hardly listens and asks, what about my parents? How did they die? It was 10 years ago. Nick tells him no idea. 10 years ago, he was in college in India. He then tells him, look, my parents died when I was young too, and it sucks. Just go home and watch one of those videos with the girls doing that booty shaking thing. As he leaves, Nick shakes Peter's hand and tells him, next time he wants to talk, make an appointment, or he'll shoot him. Afterwards, Peter decides that he should probably follow back up in the lab to see if he can find some information on Eddie. But what he finds is Eddie's professor, Kurt Connors, drunk at his desk. He tells Peter that it didn't take much to suspect that he was Spider-Man after seeing him on TV wearing the suit. So good on him for that. Kurt then goes on to say they have met before, haven't they? Back when he saved his life when he turned into that thing. Did he happen to tell anyone about it? Peter tells him no, but what exactly happened here? Kurt forces up another drink, saying how all of everything is gone. The suit, the files, the samples, everything. For a moment, he thought Spider-Man had taken it, but it seems that him and Eddie need to have a talk. Peter explains how Eddie wore the suit too, and then he's not sure if he survived. Kurt goes on asking, why is it that people are so hell-bent on wanting to change themselves into monsters? Even Ray Parker. He was a genius and an admirable man of science, but really, he was the one who started this whole decade of genetic nightmares. Peter shouts that his father was trying to cure cancer. Everyone, including him, purposely turned themselves into monsters. But Kurt brushes off the comment.
And hopefully you guys will go over there and check them out.
It's Saturday morning, Ultimate Spider-Man. It's time to get into Volume 7, where we're going to meet some of the X-Men. But if you don't know what this is the complete story series where we take your favorite trade paperbacks and we break them down to the digestible bites, allowing you to recap your favorite storylines in an interesting and dramatic manner, because we add in music, and we add in funny voices, and we add in sound effects. And if you like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Moving on with Spider-Man. In our last video, Peter Parker battled against Eddie Brock wearing the Venom suit. After Eddie was electrified and turned into a bubbling pile of goo, he did manage to escape. Now with Eddie nowhere to be found, Peter sat alone, wondering what else in his life could possibly go wrong. As class begins for Peter, he sits in his chair wondering just how is it he's going to get a new costume. With his run-in with Eddie, he's now left costumeless. But since he got his original costume from wrestling, maybe he can go get another. All of these thoughts begin to pass through his head, and Mary Jane stares at him, and she scribbles in her notebook, "What's the matter?" She nudges Peter. After reading it, Peter scowls, writing back, "What do you care?" The two go back and forth until finally Peter writes, "If you really cared, why are we not together?" But before Mary Jane can respond, the teacher grabs her and Peter's notebooks and starts to read the conversation to the class. Everyone begins to laugh at them, and Gwen whispers to Peter, "Oh, dude." Once class is over, Peter heads out, but before he can leave, Flash stops him, asking if he has a minute. Peter looks around and doesn't see anyone in the hallways and asks for what? Is he just going to try to pull some prank so that everyone can laugh at him? Flash tells him no, he needs to talk to him outside for a sec. Peter thinks about it for a moment and then says, "You know what? No. Everyone's probably outside waiting to see what happens. So, no." And he walks off. Kong steps out of class and sees Flash and asks what's going on. And Flash quietly tells him nothing. Later that day, a group of thugs begin to chase down a woman that they're trying to rob. The woman mistakenly turns down a dead-end alley, and the thugs start to surround her. As one pulls out a knife, his hand gets webbed up, and Peter calls out from the shadows that they might be real happy being walking cliches. Not even a care in the world. Peter jumps out wearing a sweater and jeans, and the thugs just stare at him. With no one moving, Peter asks, "What?" And the leader of the group asks, "Who are you supposed to be, Spider-Man? Where's the costume?" Peter tells him that his mom is washing it for him, and the leader lunges forward. Everyone follows behind him, so Peter grabs and knocks the group out while throwing them all into a corner. After wiping the group up, Peter goes back to check on the woman, and she just points at his eye. He notices that one of his lenses fell out of his mask, and he tells everyone not to move. It's a white sliver of glass. A short while later, after trying to fix his makeshift costume, Gwen comes downstairs asking Peter if he wants to go to a party. He tells her that they're both losers, everyone hates him, and she hates everyone, so what's the point? Gwen says they should at least try it and see if anybody else there is having fun at all. Under his breath, Peter says it's only because they're miserable loner orphans. But Gwen stops him, telling him, "Screw it, we're going to that party." So as they go to the house party, it's just as Peter said. Neither of them are having fun. And just as Peter gets ready to leave, he sees Liz and Mary Jane, but different. She has a haircut, it's dyed black, and she's wearing skimpy little clothes. Mary Jane isn't the same girl as before. So as she walks through, she sees Peter out of the corner of her eye, but she doesn't stop. He sighs, telling himself that it's time to go now, and Gwen tells him, "Absolutely." But no sooner does Gwen say that than a loud boom comes from outside. All of the teenagers run out of the house chanting, "Janelle!" When Peter and Gwen get outside, they see a young boy standing on a smoking car, and then he begins to hold his hand up. Light begins to shine from his palm, and then suddenly another car explodes, and all of the kids begin chanting Janelle's name. But as the teenagers call out for him to do it again, sirens begin to blare down the street. The teenagers start to scatter, and Peter and Gwen run out the back, and that's when they spot Mary Jane and Liz. Peter helps Mary Jane from being knocked over, and the four start running through the crowd. A little while later, though, everyone meets up at the bus stop, and Gwen asks what exactly happened back there. Two other girls say the kid's name is Jadolf or something, but he goes to their school. While the girls gossip about him, Gwen spots the public bus coming their way and tells everyone to come on. As everyone gets on the bus, Peter and Mary Jane catch each other looking at one another. Mary Jane smirks, patting the seat next to her, and Peter asks, "What's so funny?" She leans in, whispering that it's funny that he could be home in like 2 seconds if he wanted, but instead he's riding the bus like the rest of them. He says about that, he may have lost his costume. But as they go on and laugh, Mary Jane reaches into her purse and pulls out a letter. When everyone gets off of their stops, Mary Jane pulls Peter aside and tells him that she's going to give him this letter that she's been holding for a while. She just wants him to read it when he gets home, not before. Peter tells her fine, and she nervously hands the letter over and leaves with Liz. Afterwards, Peter rushes home to read the letter, and it's a letter telling Peter how much she loves him, and that she's just so scared about everything that happened around them. But she wants to find ways to communicate herself better so that they can actually make a relationship work. So she'll be waiting for him to come over if he wants. As soon as he finishes reading, he runs out of the basement and down the street to Mary Jane's house. He climbs into the window and he asks Mary Jane if she means it. She says yes. She's just so scared. Promise no one else is going to throw her off of a high building? Peter tells her that he promises, and the two begin to kiss. The next day at school, Peter sees some of the kids spray painting Jadolf rules across the lockers, and he asks himself, how exactly does he rule anyway? As he goes on thinking, Mary Jane kisses Peter on the cheek and asks if everything's all right now. He tells her, of course. But while they talk, Flash asks Peter if he has a second to talk. Peter snaps at him, telling him that he really doesn't have anything to say to him, and Mary Jane adds, shouting that he should just grow up. Flash tries to continue talking, but tells them, fine, it's nothing. And as he walks away, Liz runs up shouting what's going on. She holds out her phone and says that it's her cousin who invited them to that party, and it sounds like that guy, Jadolf, is blowing up more things again. Mary Jane leans into Peter, telling him, you gotta go, but don't worry. I have at least half a costume done for you. Peter asks, what does she mean by half? And Mary Jane says that she needs exact measurements, but it's better than no costume, right? So he changes, and as he steps out, he appears to be wearing a rather loose shirt and sweatpants. And he says it is kind of embarrassing. After leaving the school, Peter swings his way through the city, following the smoke coming from Public School 44. And that's where he finds Jadolf blowing up more cars in the school parking lot. He lands in front of him, and Jadolf stares at him for a moment and asks, what's this? Peter webs Jadolf's hands, telling him, I'm Spider-Man, and I'm about to stop you from doing something really dumb. Jadolf looks at his hands and he begins to electrify them, burning the webbing away, telling him, you look better on TV. The cops begin to arrive, and Peter tells them, totally not sticking around to have one of those trademark misunderstandings of the police, so it's time for us to get out of here. Before swinging away, Jadolf grabs Peter, asking him to take him too. They can't arrest him, he'll be sent back home. Peter tells him that's nice, and he shoots a web and starts to lift off. But before he can get very far, Jadolf grabs him by throwing Peter off balance. The two fling into the air, and Jadolf loses his grip, and he begins to fall. Peter begins to shout, you're such an idiot! And he webs down, grabbing him and flinging him onto a nearby building. As they land and tumble onto the roof, Peter asks, what the hell were you thinking? People already blamed me for a bunch of stuff. I don't really need this too. Jadolf starts to get up, telling Peter that he was just trying to teach the principal something about suspending half the football team for going to a party. And Peter asks him, what party? Jadolf explains that there was a party the other night, and when the principal found out what happened, he suspended half the football team. So to protest, he blew up the principal's car, and then he got carried away and blew up another one. Peter scratches his head, trying to think of a better word than idiot. Like maybe he just fight Doc Ock or something. He then asks what kind of powers does he have, and Jadolf holds out his hand, telling him that he can make things explode. He just has a big focus and point. He then points at a barrel, and it explodes. Peter asks, so you're a mutant? Jadolf shouts that he's not a mutant. You hear me? I'm not a mutant. They are the devil's children. Peter steps back, trying to logically think about how such a power is even possible. And then he tells Jadolf to look. He may want to consider how he's using his powers, or maybe be more responsible with them. Jadolf asks, why would he do that? And Peter shouts, what do you mean? Help people. Do something good with those powers. But before the two of them can go on, they hear gunshots and screams coming from down below. They see a store being robbed, and Peter tells Jadolf to just hold on. And as he gets ready to jump off, Jadolf says that he wants to come too. He can help. And Peter tells him no. You'll be right here, so just watch. He walks into the store as the robbers are demanding money, and he tells them that they should probably just drop the money and lose the stupid masks. The man in the Captain America mask turns back, shouting that he's wanting to talk, and he fires his gunshots. The bullet shoots through, hitting the window, and one of the robbers says, man, he sucks. Peter webs the shooter, telling him, yeah, he really does suck, like standing right there. After punching out the shooter, the other robbers say that they would like to not be punched, so they just put their guns down. And then Peter says that's kind of thugs he likes, the kind you just lay down. But before he can finish his sentence, there's an explosion, knocking everyone in the building to the ground. Peter jumps up to check and make sure that everyone's still alive, and then he runs back up to the rooftop. Jadolf asks, you like? Peter answers by smacking him across the face, asking him what's wrong with him. He could have killed people down there. Jadolf then gets back up, telling Peter that he better step off. But while the two begin to argue again, a female voice asks them if they wouldn't mind. They would like to talk to them. The two turn back to see Jean Grey telling them that they would like to speak with them. They are the X-Men. And Kitty Pryde adds, the cute ones. And Storm continues, I see it on TV. Peter whispers to Jadolf, told you that you were a mutant. As the girls continue to introduce themselves, Jean says that she's sorry if they freaked them out or anything like that, but they just needed to talk, and Peter asks why. So Jean goes on explaining that they and the other X-Men are mutant peacekeepers, and their focus is to bring peace between man and mutant, which is why they wanted to speak with Jadolf. Jadolf stares at her, trying to form words, but through his stuttering, he ends up fainting. Kitty leans down, asking if he really just fainted after being told that he was a mutant, and Peter says that he's pretty much in denial of that fact. While Storm and Kitty tend to Jadolf, Jean psychically tells Peter that he did a good job trying to talk to him. Peter shouts, "What the hell was that?" And Jean continues telling him that they're speaking telepathically. Just think that she can read it. Peter tells Jean that he's not sure he's very comfortable with her in his head, but she says, "Try not to be uncomfortable. It's really not a big deal. In fact, he's the first guy who hasn't mentally pictured her naked in 6 months." Peter remains quiet, and Jean says, "Until now." Still being quiet, Peter tells her sorry, and Jean asks if he's done yet. The two go back and forth looking at each other, and Peter says, "Okay, done." And Jean doesn't say anything. Peter says, "Okay, now I'm done." And then Jadolf starts to wake back up, asking what's going on. He looks up, and Jean telepathically asks if he's okay. So he screams and passes back out. And Jean tells everyone, okay, that one was her fault. Kitty asks what are they supposed to do, and Storm says that they're not sure if he's even a mutant yet. Peter asks what? But as he does, Jean psychically calls Professor Xavier. Suddenly, the giant head of Charles appears, and he tells everyone that normally they would go through the proper authorities for this, but it's a special case. However, with him passed out, it is technically kidnapping. While Jean decides to bring him in, Peter asks if that was really Professor Charles Xavier, and Storm tells him that he's already gone. Peter then asks, how does she know? Maybe he's pretending hanging up and staying on the line. As the girls bring Jadolf onto their aircraft, they ask Peter if he'd like to come, and he tells them, you know what? Sure. The jet soars into the sky, and Peter asks Jean if she actually knows how to fly a plane, to which she tells him, legally no. He then asks if she's making a funny, and she tells him yes. But while everyone talks, Jadolf Smalley gets to wake back up, and he looks around. Jean senses his movement and shouts that he's awake, and everyone turns back to tell him to relax, but Jadolf shouts for everyone to stay back, and he creates another explosion in the ship. The back of the airship begins to open up, and everyone gets pulled out. Storm flies out, trying to help glide the ship, but with the speed of the aircraft, everyone starts to get sucked out of it. A little while later, Peter begins to wake up and find himself in a bed. He looks around to see Charles, and he introduces Peter to his X-Men. He quietly says, uncanny. Peter shouts, wait, what? Storm quickly explains what happened. It was that she helped Kitty guide the plane before crashing. She then flew out, grabbing Jadolf and saving him just at the last second before he splattered on the ground. Peter blankly stares, and Storm shouts, and you're welcome. As Peter processes everything, he realizes that he's not wearing his mask. Why did they take his mask off? He was trying to keep his identity secret, and no one seems to be respecting that. Now everyone knows that he's just plain old Peter Parker. Kitty smiles and says, actually, we didn't know your name until now. After getting dressed and putting back on his mask, Peter heads over to the medical room to see Jadolf to make sure that he's okay. When he does, Jadolf tells Peter that he should totally check out what they did to his nipple. Peter says that he looks a lot happier than last time, and Charles says that he gave him a happy thought. Peter asks Charles if that's even ethical. Charles tells him honestly no, but he did just lose an aircraft because of this kid. Charles then goes on to tell him that the reason that they wanted to speak with him is because that through Cerebro they could track mutants, but with Jadolf they couldn't, which has never happened before. In fact, it didn't even register him as human, which leads one to believe that he may have been subjected to some undeserving genetic experiment. So with that being the case, what they need to do is find out who did this, and more importantly, why. Peter then says, all right, so what are you going to do with him? Charles tells them that they'll present him to a couple of scientific organizations, and they'll present their findings to the UN so that they can basically finally stop the countries that are turning a blind eye to inhumane mutilations. This is really a smoking gun. And Peter corrects him. He. Charles asks, what? And Peter points at Jadolf saying, he. We're talking about a human. Peter then goes on to ask if Jadolf doesn't want to be a part of their agenda. He's already a mutant phobic. Charles tells him that at this point, it's not up to him. There are much bigger considerations. Peter says that he's going to try and say that this guy deserves a shot at normal life. And Beast leans in asking, define normal. So after thinking about it, Peter turns around shouting, define this! And he punches Beast. Peter then grabs Jadolf, kicks the Cyclops in the head, and he runs out of the lab. Colossus tries to stop him, but Peter just tackles through him and out the window. As he lands, Peter sees Charles standing there asking, what good would that do? Peter then snaps back to reality, back in the lab, saying, what? That was, I just thought. Charles then tells Peter that he's sure that he just read about his work. He knows what him and the X-Men stand for, so he can promise that Jadolf will be treated with respect. Kitty asks Peter if he's going to be okay with all of this, and he tells her that he guesses. She then asks if he needs a ride back to Queens, and Peter shouts, oh God, what time is it? A short while later, Peter walks across his lawn into his basement, thinking about how he really needs to stop meeting people that he looks up to. They're all starting to seem kind of crazy. Actually, he probably shouldn't be thinking that. What if Charles Xavier's listening? Before he can wonder any further, they stop him, telling him they really need to talk. And that concludes Ultimate Spider-Man number 7. It's kind of a filler, but it was cool to see the Ultimate X-Men in this universe, and that's how they are there, right in the comic strip. You get to enjoy that. Yes, you do. Don't forget you can subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with your Saturday morning Ultimate Spider-Man videos. And you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram where we can talk about whatever you want. I'll see you next time right here.
Stop right there, your ladiness. A delicate flower like yourself has no place aboard Holly. Good point.
Welcome back to Ultimate Spider-Man Saturdays. This is where we go over the Ultimate Spider-Man storyline volume by volume, allowing you to catch up entirely on one of the most incredible Spider-Man storylines that existed during the periods of Spider-Man storylines. Today we're going to be covering Volume 9. Now, in the last video, Peter attempted to stop the cat burglar known as Black Cat one night as she stole something belonging to the Kingpin. But after a brief fight, Black Cat managed to escape with Kingpin's stone tablet. After learning the truth about Black Cat's past, Peter helped her fight off Kingpin and Elektra, only to have her disappear once again. While everything for Peter seems to have remained calm, S.H.I.E.L.D. wasted no time in gathering up the villains who have taken part in the unauthorized genetic mutations. In their custody is now Otto Octavius, also known as Doc Ock, Max Dillon, also known as Electro, Flint Marko, known as the Sandman, and Norman Osborn, known as the Green Goblin. Since their capture, Hank Pym has been working on these four in an attempt to rehabilitate them, allowing them to try and do some good for once. Outside, though, Agent Sharon Carter escorts Kraven the Hunter to containment, explaining to him that the device around his neck will stabilize genetics if he tries to do anything. Not smart. Kraven shouts, asking if they know who he is. He is Kraven! His face begins to change, and he yells as his teeth start to form fangs, and Sharon tells the guards to hit the collar. Suddenly, the collar around Kraven's neck starts to emit electricity, stunning and forcing him to the ground. Sharon goes on telling him, like she was saying, the collar will forcibly stabilize his genetic structure, and as he can see, it's not a pleasant experience. One thing he should know, though, is that the collar does match his strength, so the harder that he resists it, it is possible that it will fry his brain. Back in the holding cells, the guards toss Kraven in, and Max says that he knows that guy. Is he really a mutant? Sharon tells him no, they keep the mutant terrorists on a whole nother slice of heaven. This is the place for those cute little genetic anomalies, so sleep tight. As Sharon leaves, Kraven slowly starts to wake back up, and Max calls out that, by the way, his show is really sucking. Kraven screams as he runs towards the barrier and he's electrocuted, and Max just sits in his cell laughing. Down the hall, Norman sits in his cell asking, why would they bring all 6 of them together? Otto asks him, what does he mean by 6? There's only 5 of them here. And Norman leans back, telling him, no, there will be 6. The next day, the captives are all brought out, and Hank tries to speak with them all again, mainly Norman, since he's been the most silent out of all of them. Hank asks what is it that made him do all of this. He had everything that he could ever want. A wife, a child, millions of dollars, his own business, legendary scientific acumen. And Norman laughs, telling him, I was just doing what Nick Fury tells me to do. They wanted the Oz formula, the miracle that made me and Otto the way that we are. Hank says, actually, we already have the formula. That and everything that you own was seized the day that you were taken into custody. As Hank goes on, Norman gets angry, and his skin starts to change, and Norman changes into the Green Goblin, breaking out of his restraints. But seconds later, Hank's giant hand grabs him and slams him down to the ground. Hank looks back at the other captives and tells them that at least they know the system works. 6 weeks later, Sharon escorts Norman back to his cell after being released from medical and asks everyone to guess who's back and better than ever. And by better, she means completely sedated out of his mind. Max shouts that he doesn't feel very comfortable having Norman around them. And Sharon tells him to be quiet or she'll stick them both in the same cell. Max tells her, fine, at least take her top off for them. Sharon smiles, telling him sure, and she starts to unbutton her shirt as Max's eyes light up. Sharon stops, telling him psych, and Max grits his teeth, telling her that she will be the first. Otto looks over at Norman's cell, and as the two lock eyes, Otto calls out that he would like to talk to Hank, please. He wants to talk. A short while later, Otto stands before Hank and his team, telling him that he just wants to help after seeing what Norman has done to himself. He wants to contribute. He's a man of science, not some monster, so please let him help. Hank stares at him for a moment and says that he'll get back to him on that. And a few days later, Hank walks Otto into their research facility, and Otto asks what is the overall focus that they are trying to achieve here. Hank tells him that he may know. The next war will most likely be fought genetically, so they're working on ways to stay ahead of that. Otto looks around and says that it's really good to be back in the lab. And another researcher says that she knows that this might be a bit too soon, but they have a surprise for him. Otto sees the table with his mechanical arms. And the researcher says that those arms have revolutionized high-risk lab working. But as Otto stares at him, he says that it's strange being a man of science, but he wonders if his connection to them is more of a mental, like a connection, not just physical. Maybe the explosion that grafted it to him was in fact a method of mentally unlocking his control over them. Otto continues to talk, but soon no one responds. He then looks around, telling them that they'll just have to take his word for it. But the arms are already out, just stabbing everyone in the chest. Back over in the holding cells, the lights go out, and everyone starts to walk out of their cells, wondering what's going on. Flint Marco asks if this means that they can use their powers, and Max sparks his finger, telling him there's only one way to find out. He starts to emit electricity, and he fires a blast, hitting Norman's collar. Norman falls to his knees, groaning, and a moment later, he starts to change into the Green Goblin. Once everyone's collars are disabled, Otto knocks down the door, and Norman asks him if he's the one who did this. Otto tells him that it's called telling them what they want to hear, and what he's become is truly magnificent. Norman tells them that they are now even, so it's time for him to get his boy and destroy Nick Fury. And Otto asks, where do they keep your son Harry? Norman asks him, what is he talking about? His boy's name is Peter. All at once, the Ultimates hear the communicators going off, and everyone rushes over to the now-destroyed containment facility. Tony arrives in the Iron Man suit and begins to scan the place for signs of life. After a quick glance, Tony says that there are 3 signals, then he asks how many people are in the facility. Nick's eyes go wide as he tells them that there were 38 people here. Tony hurries over to the 3 signals and says that he found Hank. He's alive, but barely. A short while later, Nick gathers everyone at the SHIELD base of Triskelon and begins to go over the footage of the outbreak. He explains to everyone that at the present moment, they are unable to locate any of the captives. The only way to pinpoint them is if they power up again. Dramatically changing their genetic structure would set off an alarm. Nick goes on telling everyone that it's possible that they need to watch out for any past relationships that these people had, or past grudges. And as Nick thinks about it, he realizes that Norman did have a grudge against Peter Parker. Not long after that, Peter sits in his school when a SHIELD agent pulls him out of class. As the two walk down the hallway, Peter asks him who he is, and he explains that he is Agent Clay Quartermain from SHIELD. Nick Fury had orders to bring him in. Peter then asks, how does he know that he's with SHIELD? Does he have some kind of identification? Clay holds out his watch, and on the screen, Nick tells him to get his tights and get his butt over there. A short while later, over at the base, Nick brings Peter into the control room and tells everyone that this is Spider-Man. Tony looks at him asking, did he pull him out of time or something? He's kind of young. And Nick shouts, no, this is really him. Before they can get all high and mighty, he would like to point out that he has single-handedly beaten the crap out of everyone who has escaped, and the entire SHIELD organization couldn't do that. Peter then asks, wait, escaped? Who? And Nick tells him, all of them. Peter shouts that he's got to warn Aunt May, but Nick tells him that he's got that covered. He has agents watching over both May and a Mary Jane. While everyone begins to prepare themselves, Peter says that he needs to call Mary Jane. Norman threatened her. So Nick grabs the phone from Peter and shouts that he just lost 35 people today. That's more than he's ever lost since he took this job. Now, if he won't listen to them, he will ship his butt back to Queens and let him fend for himself. The room falls silent as everyone looks, and Peter says that he doesn't understand. What do they think they're going to do? As Nick looks at the monitor with Norman on it, he says that they'll find out soon enough. Over in the White House, Mr. Stone, the chief of staff, receives word from his secretary that Norman Osborn is on the line for him. Stone grabs the phone and says that this is Stone, and then he hangs up the phone. He walks into the president's office and says they have a serious situation with Nick Fury. A few hours later, Nick sits in the Oval Office while the president yells, asking how is it that criminals that he didn't even know about ended up calling the White House. Not only does Norman Osborn want $100 million, but he also wants his company back, his son, and amnesty for himself and a few others, along with the arrest of Nick Fury or else. Nick Fury asks him what is the what else, and the president goes back to shouting that he's threatening to expose the highly confidential organization for illegally detaining, or they will release that information worldwide. He goes on stating how there was a little concentration camp for supervillains behind his back, and now that they were all locked up without any sort of trial or due process, they've also escaped. Nick tries to explain, but the president cuts him off, shouting that he has until tonight to get this fixed. Now get out. As Nick Fury walks out of the office, his phone goes off, and when he answers, Norman says that he hopes that he will enjoy prison more than he did. A little while later, back over to the base to get everyone ready to move out, and as he suits up, one of the operators shouts that they're currently being hacked. Everyone runs over to the computers, and Nick shouts for everyone to shut down the systems, and then the power goes out. Everyone stands still, and Peter begins to feel his spider sense going on. Just then, all of the lights begin to pop, and electricity shoots out, shocking most of the people. Max then floats down, telling everyone that he hopes they all like it like that. Any remaining agents open fire on Max, but the bullets phase through him, and he says that it isn't going to work as well as they hoped. Suddenly, a rush of wind shoots by as sand begins to cloud everyone's vision. Peter tries to web up Max, but Flint forms a hammer of sand and cracks Peter in the head as he falls. Norman rips off the roof and jumps down, hitting Peter to the ground, and he smiles, telling him, "My boy." A little while later, Peter sits in a chair, beginning to hear the voices of Norman and Otto talking. When he opens his eyes, Norman looks down at him, telling him, "There's my boy. Peter begins to look around and sees Craven changing shape, and he punches him, shouting, "He's just a kid!" Otto grabs Craven by the neck with a mechanical arm and slams him into a wall, and Otto tells him to be still. Norman then says, "Obviously, Craven is the weakest of us, so he'll do best to keep quiet and behave." Craven wipes the blood from his mouth, telling him, "Yeah, okay." Otto then picks Peter back up and sits him down, and Peter asks, "Why do you keep calling me your boy?" Norman leans down, telling him that it's because he is his greatest creation. If it wasn't for him and Otto, he wouldn't be Spider-Man. Norman then goes on, telling him that together they are all victims of Nick Fury here. And now you are one of us, so let's all make history. Peter breaks free from the chair, shouting for him to shut up, and he jumps onto the wall. He then says that if he thinks for a second that he's going to help him, but Norman then holds out his arm, stopping him, telling him, "Aunt May will die tonight. And if you still can't behave, then it will be Mary Jane. And then her family." As Norman keeps listing off things, Peter tells him, "Fine, okay, just leave Aunt May alone." Back over at the White House, Stone gets another call from Norman, and he asks, "How's everything working out?" Stone says that he's sorry, but the White House just doesn't work like that. He can't cough up $100 million. Norman cuts him off, telling him, "Well, that's really too bad." And then he hangs up. The president then asks everyone if they got a hit on his location, and the lights go out. Suddenly, electricity shoots out of all of the electrical devices, and then there's a loud boom coming from outside. Soldiers stationed outside begin firing towards the explosion, and then another wave of electricity shoots out, frying them all. From the smoke and the fire, Norman, along with Peter, steps out, stating that this will do. As everyone walks towards the White House, they all start to hear a loud humming. When they look up, they see the SHIELD helicarrier flying by. Captain America steps up and points to Norman, telling him, "You're trespassing." Without even responding, Norman and the rest of them clash with the Ultimates, and all Peter can do is stand there and watch. Norman grabs him and puts him in front of Captain, telling him to do something useful. As Peter nervously pulls his arm back to swing, Captain America asks, "What are you doing?" Peter stutters, telling him that he has to, or Aunt May's going to. Peter then grabs onto Captain America, and he tells him, "Norman won't. We have her up in the helicarrier." While the two of them struggle, pushing each other back, Peter asks, "You promise? You swear you have her?" And Captain America looks at him and says, "Kid." Peter lets go, and he looks back to Norman, calling him out. Norman shouts that he told him to. But before he can finish, Peter cracks him across his goblin face. He then jumps on top of him, shouting that he's sick of having him in his life. And then one of Otto's mechanical arms grabs and throws him. Peter's body shoots through the field, crashing into the White House. As Peter gets back up, he says, "So this is the Oval Office, huh?" Back outside, while the fighting continues, Janet flies towards Otto and straight into his mouth. A few seconds later, Otto begins to gag and he falls to the ground. Janet then crawls out, stating that this would make her the first person in history to be totally covered in gingivitis. Elsewhere, Flint Marko beats down on Tony in the Iron Man suit while Tony radios in that he can really use the genetic sequence for Sandman right about now. He can actually fight back. A few moments later, the radio says that the file is sent and Tony gives a blast, shooting Flint's head off. Across the field, Captain America bashes Norman, telling him to just give it up. But after pushing him back, Norman shouts, "Where is Nick Fury? I'll kill him right here." And as he yells, he suddenly hears Harry's voice call out, "Dad!" Norman turns around and Harry stands up, telling him that he needs to stop. Norman stops and he stands up, saying, "Nick has sunk to a new low child." And Harry tells him no. He came on his own, so please just stop all of this. While they talk, Tony watches and tells the helicarrier to go ahead. Load Osborn's genetic sequence. He has a clear shot. Harry then looks back at the White House and sees Peter. Norman stands still and then slowly begins to revert back, when suddenly there's a flash and a bright blue blast hits Norman in the back. And as he falls, he shouts, "I'll kill you all!" Everyone on the ground begins to focus their attacks on Norman, and Nick walks up to Harry and tells him this wasn't a part of the plan. Peter rushes down to see Harry, and then there's another explosion in the sky. Everyone looks up to see a giant ball of electricity and then a person fall from it. One of the soldiers asks who just won, and as him and Tony aim, they see Thor float back to the ground asking if they're done yet. Peter turns back to Harry, hugging him, telling him that he didn't deserve any of this, and through his sobs, Harry says, "All of you, I'll kill all of you for this." Another soldier starts to walk Harry away, and Nick walks up to Peter, telling him that for a number of reasons, he needs to get out of here. They will get him back to New York within the hour. They've got Harry under control. A little while later, Peter heads over to the helicarrier and is told to tell Aunt May that he was also being held. Because of security, he was kept separate from her. She asks if she's mad or anything, like on a scale of 1 to 10. As Peter and the agent walk into the next room, May screams that she will sue all of them if she doesn't see her nephew right now, right this instant. Peter runs over to hug her, and she tells the agents that she would very much like them to bring her home now. Elsewhere, in another lab loading bay, a cryogenic chamber is activated with the body of Norman Osborn. Captain America says they should just put a bullet in the back of his head, and Nick tells them that they can't, not until they get everything they need from his DNA. As the rain pours down, Captain America tells them that's right, because the next war will be a genetic one. And Nick Fury tells them, yeah, that's right. And that concludes Volume 9 and the Sinister Six Arrival into the Ultimate Universe. The Ultimate Universe is getting better and better, and honestly, we're about to cross into what I consider to be the best storylines in the Ultimate Spider-Man storyline series. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get your Saturday Ultimate Spider-Mans, and you can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram to follow more about what's happening on this channel.
I'm a good butcher.
It's a pet shop.
Welcome back to Saturday Morning Spider-Man. It's time to go on with Ultimate Spider-Man Volume number 10. Now in our last video, Peter faced off against Norman Osborn and the rest of the Sinister Six. After an attack on a S.H.I.E.L.D. base, Norman managed to capture Peter, and he threatened that if he didn't help him, he would kill Aunt May and Mary Jane. In the end, Harry Osborn managed to convince his dad to give up the fight, but he learned that Peter was actually Spider-Man and he vowed to kill everyone. As the cab driver loads up Aunt May's luggage, May stands by Peter and Gwen's side, explaining that she's going to be gone in Florida for a week. She doesn't want any hanky-panky going on. And as Peter asks, what the heck is that? May tells him that he knows what she means. After the two of them wave goodbye, Peter goes back inside to have breakfast, and he begins to think about how this is a first. For once, there's no earth-shattering drama, no news about some villain attacking New York. Heck, even Jonah is being somewhat reasonable. And while Gwen makes herself breakfast, she has the news playing. The reporter says that they have an interview with Sam Raimi, the man who will be directing the new Spider-Man movie. Peter watches and Sam says that there isn't much known about Spider-Man, but he wants to capture his perception of it. Just imagine that this man was struck by tragedy, and he grows up to be a loser, and then he puts on a mask and everything changes. As Peter listens to Sam, for the most part, accurately describe his life, he doesn't realize until after that he just ripped the door off the hinges. Meanwhile, over at Rikers Island Maximum Security Penitentiary, Otto Octavius sits in his cell, alone. One of the guards leans in on the cell, showing him a paper stating that there is a Spider-Man movie coming in, and his ex-wife is helping as a consultant to give it a little authenticity. Apparently, she's an expert on deluded, self-important murderers like him, and leave it to ex-wives to cash into the man's work, right? The guard throws the paper in, saying that he would feel bad if he wasn't a cop killer. And who knows, maybe you could even go to the premiere. Later, as Otto lies in his bed, he feels a faded thunk, thunk, and he smiles. Not far off at the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, two scientists begin to hear it coming from a locker. They go to check it out. As soon as the locker is unlocked, Otto's mechanical arms shoot out and they begin crawling up into the air vents. The next day at the set of the new Spider-Man movie, actor Tobey Maguire pulls off the Spider-Man mask, shouting that he can't see a thing with this thing on. Just as Sam and the others go out to respond, their words trail off, and Tobey looks around to see Peter, the actual Spider-Man, telling him, "You suck." And then he points at everyone else, stating, "You all suck and you should feel bad." He then jumps around the set shouting that the movie is totally going to tank because they're all fake and their actors can't do this. Peter then stops and asks Sam, "How could you do this to me? You're making a movie without my permission. I'm Spider-Man." Sam smiles, telling him, "Actually, we don't need it. You're a public figure, so you're public domain." And the producer adds that they even get the rights of Octavius from his ex-wife. The producer then begins asking, what are these men like? What kind of men are Otto and Norman Osborn? Peter begins to feel frustrated that no one is listening to him. He's Spider-Man. He's here in the suit, and no one's listening to him. And he shouts, "You people just suck," and he webs off. Back on Rikers Island, Otto sits up in his bed and he smiles as he hears the explosions going off and the guards shouting for help. As the mechanical arm slips into the cell, he says, "Yes, I missed you too. Now it's time for us to leave." A short while later, in another part of town, Otto knocks on a door that happens to be a man's house, and when the man asks what does he want, Otto tells him that he has a really nice house. The man asks, "Do I know you or something?" And then suddenly there's a crash from behind and the mechanical arms begin to crawl in. Otto tells the man, "I really like your house." Meanwhile, at school, Kong tells everyone that he just got a part in the Spider-Man movie as an extra. While the students all gather around to listen, Gwen overhears and asks if there's a part in the movie where Spider-Man kills her dad. Everyone just looks at her. Gwen mutters, "So stupid," under her breath as she storms off. Peter and Mary Jane watch and they chase after her. Peter tells her that they know it wasn't Spider-Man that killed her father. It was, Gwen cuts him off. "Yeah, it was some guy in a Spider-Man costume. That doesn't matter. It's all Spider-Man. A guy dressed as Spider-Man killed my dad, and now they want to make a movie about him?" Gwen turns and walks up shouting, "Yeah, make a hero out of him. Make a movie and dollars. Yippee!" Peter tells Mary Jane that he could really use a crazy villain to beat the crap out of right now. Back at Otto's newly acquired house, he talks to the mechanical arms as they flip through the channels on the TV and stuff on the news. The reports begin to talk about the new Spider-Man movie and how they're lucky enough to speak with Rosalita Octavius, the estranged wife of Dr. Otto Octavius. The camera then switches to Rosalita talking about Otto and how he's a tragic failure. And as the news plays, the mechanical arms rip the TV off the wall and they smash it on the ground. And Otto says, "This is perplexing." Up on one of the buildings is Peter, watching as they film. And as the actors start to get ready for a break, there's a loud crash and people screaming. When everyone looks over, they see Otto making his way through, destroying everything in his path. He calls out for Rosalita, telling her how disappointed that we are for what you've done. One of the mechanical arms begins to reach out, but it's stopped as Peter webs it up, saying, "You can't do this. How could you be out and about doing this to me again?" And Otto just looks back and says, "Mr. Parker." The mechanical arms begin to grab Peter, and Peter shouts, "All of the sucky things you made me do. Now you're making me fight you so that you don't trash the movie set that I already hate." As the arms flail about, one manages to knock Peter down, and Otto screams at him, "They just died!" The arms then shoot out, and just before it hits Peter, he quickly catches it. And Otto asks, "Why is it that everywhere I go, Spider-Man is always there?" Peter then struggles to push the arm back and says, "Because I love you." And then Otto whips Peter into the air, and Peter asks, "How is it that you keep escaping? I'm no expert or anything, but I'm starting to really think that there needs to be a security upgrade of these prisons." As Peter tries to fight back against Otto, Otto manages to knock him back into the ground, and then he wraps an arm around Peter's neck. As he's lifted up into the air, Peter says, "You've become a much better fighter." Otto then electrifies an arm and smacks Peter with stating, "We have had a great deal of time to consider how to fight you if we ever met again." Peter asks who this "we" stuff is that he's already talking about, because he's already a whacked out wackety whack job. And one of the actors runs in screaming, "Oh God, don't kill me!" And both Peter and Otto just stare at him. So then Otto keeps Peter in the air, and one of the Spider-Man stuntmen grab a camera, and they bash it into the side of Otto's head. Peter asks, "Who are you?" The man says that his name is Leroy, and this guy is gone and shut down the project. Peter says, "Oh, I thought I was getting a revamp or something." Otto then gets up, swinging his arm, knocking Leroy away. And then Peter catches one of the arms and swings Otto into a production van. Just as he swings again to throw Otto aside, Peter's grabbed by another arm and he's tossed out into the street. Meanwhile, back at Peter's home, the doorbell rings, and when Gwen goes to check it, she sees Mary Jane. Gwen opens the door, and Mary dances in, telling her that her mother finally kicked her father out. She's not forever grounded from the whole running away thing. She then calls out for Peter, and Gwen tells her that he's not really here, he's at work or something. And Gwen says that she'll hang out until they get back. She needs to relax anyway. But just before they sit on the couch, they both see the news, and they see that Spider-Man is fighting Otto again, and now Spider-Man's defending everyone. Gwen watches it angrily, and Mary Jane watches, stating that she's gotta go, she forgot something, and she runs out the door. However, Gwen notices that there was something strange about that. Back on the set, the fighting brought Peter and Otto into the tunnels, where Otto throws Peter against a wall, and the mechanical arm quickly grabs him again and throws him into a car. And just as the spider sense goes off, Otto hits him again, slamming him into another car. Peter looks up, and then his vision begins to fade. And when he opens his eyes, he tries to move, and then he sees that he's duct taped to a chair. And a plane has already taken off. That's when he hears a voice telling him, "Ah, good, you're awake." Otto walks out of the cockpit, telling him that it's a lovely night to be flying, Mr. Parker. I actually thought that you would be grounded for being out this late on a school night. He then pulls off Peter's mask, and Peter asks, "What kind of goofy goofball thing are you going to do to me now?" So Otto hits him with a mechanical arm, and Peter shouts, "God, you knocked the tooth loose!" Otto tells him, "I'm sorry about that, but let's take a look. I'm a doctor after all." The mechanical arms hold Peter's head in place while another one reaches in, grabbing the wiggling tooth and rips it out of his head. Peter screams, and then with another arm, Otto webs up Peter's mouth, telling him, "This is a cute toy that you have. And I thought that the webbing came out of your body organically." Peter tries to break free, but Otto tells him, "You only have one purpose, and that's courtesy. And you break glass in case of emergency situation." He sits down, telling him, "The way I see it, I need something in case I run into any trouble when we land. I have you to be used. But there's one thing that I want to tell you. I hate everything about you. The biggest thing was this whole wanting to do good thing. Deep down, you're just a pathetic, immature glory hound. In fact, I'm truly disgusted by you, Mr. Parker. There's always someone standing in my way. Whether it be you, Rosalita, Norman, there's always someone. Why can't you people just leave me alone so that I can live a decent life? Why is that so hard?" Otto leans back and he tells him, "Just so you know, you will be killed tonight. They will kill you." And as Otto goes on, Peter passes out from the pain, and the pilot says he'll be arriving shortly. Otto walks back up to the cockpit, and he hears the pilot speaking to the control tower about the landing. And then there's a sudden boom! Otto runs back out to see the door open and Peter gone from his chair. And he looks outside screaming, "Parker!" Meanwhile, back at home, Gwen doesn't feel quite so right that Mary Jane is up and left at news of Spider-Man, so she decides to go into Peter's basement. While she looks around, she sees Peter's locked chest and breaks the lock with a hammer. As it opens, her eyes widen as she sees the Spider-Man costume sitting inside. Once the plane touches down in Brazil, Otto says that he knows little Parker is out there. He pulls the pilot out, telling him that he did an exceptional job flying under what he is sure was not ideal flying conditions. But they have a little Spider-Man to deal with. The pilot says that he promised that he could live, so... But Otto steps off the plane, and then Peter jumps out of a closet and kicks him onto the runway. Otto scrambles to get up, but Peter punches him down, telling him, "You had this coming!" He then jumps onto Otto, smacking him down with his own mechanical arm, asking, "Are you going to whip out yet?" and then one arm crawls up from behind, throwing Peter into the air, and he lands on one of the plane's wings. When Peter gets up, he looks at the airport sign, and now that he's able to read it, he says, "Oh, man, I'm not in America, am I? I am so going to be grounded." Otto gets back up and he starts to swing at the airport personnel. And so Peter jumps in, punching him back to the ground, telling him to just stay calm. Suddenly, Peter hears the sounds of guns cocking, and soldiers start running at him, yelling in Portuguese. He tells them that he swears that he'll do whatever they want if they just say it in English. And then from the crowd, a woman steps forward asking if he's really the American Spider-Man, and if so, what is he doing here? Peter points to Otto, telling them that it was this guy's fault. He kidnapped me to go wherever the heck this place is. The woman tells him he's actually in Brazil. Peter then turns to the pilot, stating that he knows that he's had a bit of a rough night, but could you help me out and bring me back to New York? That'd be great. The female captain says they're not going anywhere. They still have reports to fill out. So Peter shouts, "No, you don't understand. I have to get home or I'm going to be in so much trouble." But before they can be taken away, a passing plane gets ready to take off. Just before lifting up, Peter hops onto it and sticks to the plane. And then from hopping from plane to plane, he finally gets back to Queens. Peter rushes home before Aunt May is supposed to get back, and he sneaks into the basement. Just as he pulls his mask off, he sees Gwen standing there crying, holding a gun at him. And through her crying, she says that it was him. Wasn't it? He's the one that killed her father. Peter asks, where is she going to get the gun? And she shouts that it was her father's. She goes on screaming that it was Spider-Man. Spider-Man killed her father. He shouts that it wasn't him, it was the other guy in the Spider-Man costume. And then the two hear the front door open as Aunt May gets back from her trip. Peter quickly snatches the gun and he tells Gwen that she needs to listen to him. He didn't kill her father. Yes, he's Spider-Man, but he would never kill anyone. Plus, he was with her the day that it happened. Her dad was in Atlantic City. They were here. There's no way that he could have been there. And he tells her that she needs to please believe him. No one knows about this, and Aunt May cannot handle this sort of thing. As May continues calling, asking who's home, Peter slowly removes his hand from Gwen's mouth. She doesn't say anything, and as she turns to leave, slamming the basement door shut. May calls out asking if anyone is down there, and Peter comes up stating that he just fell asleep at his computer. He's sorry for not coming up right away. May tells him it's all right, and then she sees the bruise on Peter's cheek. She asks what happened, and Peter says, "Oh, you get hurt at the gym. The tooth even popped out, but it's fine." May tells him it's not okay. They're going to set up an appointment to have the dentist and look at that tomorrow. The next day, Peter laid in bed as Mary Jane comes home from school. She tries to gently wake him, but he jumps up shouting, "Don't!" And he spits out bandages from his mouth. Both scream, falling back, and Peter says, "Oh, hey." She hugs him, telling him that she was so worried. Everyone's been talking at school about the whole plan. And then he says, "Actually, was Gwen at school?" Mary Jane says, "No, why?" Peter tells Mary Jane that Gwen found him. Mary Jane quietly says that she may have looked a little suspicious, running out of the house when the news was showing him fighting Doc Ock. Peter sighs, asking what is he supposed to do now, and a voice says that she was going to find out sooner or later. Peter sees Gwen and asks, where did she go? She tells him that at first, just in the backyard for like an hour, at the movies and the library. Mary Jane asks what she's doing there, and Gwen says she was just reading up stuff on Spider-Man and her father. Peter asks that she knows that he didn't kill her father, right? And Gwen says, yes, sorry, she kind of wigged out on him like that. Peter brushes it off, telling her not to worry, and they're all kind of spazzing out. So Gwen jumps on the bed, stating that this all makes so much more sense now. The reason Peter Parker is a total flake. Mary Jane says that he was a flake before this whole thing happened.
Wow.
Gwen then says that
Okay, guys.
she wasn't going to shoot, right? Peter says, yeah.
That's me for one night. So I'm going to say thank you very, very much for watching tonight. And if you have enjoyed tonight and you would like to see more, or if there's a character that you wish to see of your own, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave your comments down below on what you want to see next. Otherwise, I will be back very soon with another character, and I will be inking that one. And this picture that I've done will be coloured in actual pen, probably a Copic marker or just pencils. Otherwise, guys, hopefully you have enjoyed tonight's stream and you come on back for the next one. Thank you very much for watching, guys. And again, I'm Loot084 Art and Games here on YouTube, Instagram, and Mixer.com. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.
Whenever a movie comes out, we do typically take a break from our normal schedule so that we